Hello, everyone. Hello. Alrighty, I think we're good. We should be. We should be good. We should be running on all cinder blocks. What's up, everybody? Hi, Basil. I haven't seen you in forever. I was a little worried about you. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Remember, don't send hate to anyone. Yeah, don't be mean. There's no reason to be mean. But what's up, everybody? I am just waiting on my guests right now. In the meantime, we're going to, let's see here. There we go. Now we've got some nice background music while we wait. Look at that. Alrighty. I'm just waiting for this person to join the thing, basically. Just waiting. I guess for now I'll just respond to the chat. Get a fucking job. This is my job. I'm sorry that you personally find that really problematic, but I can't help that. Hello.
What's up? What's up?
Ah, it's so good to see you. I didn't think it was gonna be that quick, honestly. You figured it out quicker than Alchemist Soil did. I'll give you that much.
Who the fuck is Alchemist Soil?
Be glad you don't know the name.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so let's not get started on too rancorous a note. I think the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of introduce the genesis of all this. So I take it based on what you. What's
Could
up?
you send me like your stream link?
Sure. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Fetch it.
I'll give you 2.
Oh, look at that. Billy the Fridge is streaming too. Neat. Lots of people live right now. I'll give you the link to the vertical stream because that's the one that's got more viewers. Alrighty. Sent that to your Discord. And if you'd prefer, I can update your name in the title.
Sure.
I can try at least.
Yeah.
What do you based on the title you typed in, Dan Chill, does that work?
I mean, you can call me whatever you want, but like, I usually just go by the Discord name, but doesn't really matter. Like,
then we'll
I'm not a fucking internet celebrity or anything. It's not like I'm gonna get anybody to like I don't stream or anything like that. Like, I don't
No,
really
that's
care.
fine. I just like to be respectful to people and, offer them the opportunity to have that, like, to get the name accurate if they want it to be. So basically,
Yeah,
the
they
genesis...
just call me Dan, bro. It's fine.
Alrighty, sounds good. So basically, the genesis of this was that me and you had... Well, it wasn't really me and you. You started off with an argument with Paul Zigo in the Deep Fat Fried subreddit.
Yeah,
Over
that
the
was
matter of Russia
basically...
and Ukraine. And you want
Yeah,
to go...
exactly.
Yeah,
There
just
was
go
this
over that real
post
quick.
about how, like, people don't care about Ukraine anymore, and I told him, nah, bro. Like, I commented and said, like, basically, in Europe, people still give very much of a fuck about Ukraine. And Paul basically, like, Paul Zigo from Deep Fat Fry basically responded and said how brave it was of the Europeans to, like, dead children or whatever. And somewhere along the line, you joined, yeah.
So Paul made a pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? fiery, I guess you could say,
Yeah, that's
comment.
to be expected.
Right, made a pretty fiery comment regarding. Crap, I have forgotten one fundamental preparation, and now that I realize, it's bugging me.
I have time, it's fine.
Okay, give me 1 second. Literally just 1 second, because I have forgotten a crucial piece to this puzzle. So give me
I'll
literally
try
just.
my best not to spam the N-word in your absence.
Okay, yeah, no, for sure. You know. You know better.
What the fuck? Some dude in chat just said his friend said he's gay for him. And then added as a joke. But I don't know if that's a joke. Like, you should probably try to, like, dip your wick off of that or something. Like, what else are you gonna do with that info? Yeah, Princino Alina, sure. That's like, I don't think guys would say that just as like a joke. Unless it's like purposefully. Like, you know, when somebody says something that's like so over the top that it can only be a joke, yeah, but if a dude says that he, you know, likes his best friend or something, then I guess it's open to interpretation. Who the fuck is Taylor? Jesus fucking Christ, there's like 80 people watching. What the hell?
I'm back. You still hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. Cool.
I'm
Yeah,
just
people
gonna
say
turn up my
insane shit in
volume
my
a little
chat.
bit.
No problem.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
problem.
Apparently, some dude in your chat had his best friend come out to him as gay.
Right on.
And for some reason, he said he wants to stay away from him. Instead of,
Oh,
you know, like,
well, that's weird.
yeah.
Well, I mean, like, some people have like negative reactions to that kind of thing, but it's like, I don't even understand that, because it's like, even if you don't personally like gay people, it's not like your friend coming out as gay is going to instantly. It's not like it's going to change something about the dynamic of your relationship. It's not like they're coming out so they can hit on you, but it's absurd. But yeah, so you got into kind of a flame war with, yeah, it's a very brief flame war, but a flame war nonetheless with Paul over on Reddit. I joined in at a certain point, and I basically make the argument that there are, as far as I can see, three ways that this can turn out. Let me see if there's some better way I can put this. Here we go. The way I see it, there are basically three ways that this can turn out. Number one way is that it can just continue as it is, where Ukraine continues fighting with some limited American assistance, some American and European weaponry and stuff like that, resupplying. China helps Russia stay supplied. The war continues on for an undetermined amount of time, and eventually one side collapses or the other does. Or it could either be resolved through some sort of diplomatic action in which there is a joint control area established in the Donbass, or an escalation of the conflict, wherein we draw a hard, fast line that achieves long-lasting peace by letting Russia know that this is not a strategy that they can afford to do long-term. And I feel like whenever me and you have argued in the subreddit, or at least in that instance, I don't know how much we've argued in general, but I feel like in that instance, I didn't really hear much of an argument as to what possible steps could be taken to make this not be a forever war.
Okay. So I told you on Reddit that I'm tenant of my mom is a Ukrainian expat, basically. Like he used to be involved in the war. He was like a drone repairman and worked pretty close to like the Azov battalion, and he's now had to leave the country for medical reasons, like due to some weird special kind of cancer that literally requires like the most expensive medical treatment there is, and basically my home country of Germany offers it to people. So that's why he's there, which has also sparked a weird thing on Reddit. Some dude replied to me saying that I shouldn't have an opinion on the Ukraine war because I hang with Ukrainian deserters, which is kind of fucked up thing to say.
I was going to ask you, what was that about?
Yeah, I mean, homie just casually has the reading comprehension of like a 5-year-old cucumber or whatever, and fucking basically called homie a deserter for like being a disabled veteran who has cancer and had to leave the country for treatment. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's absurd. That's
homie is not banned on the subreddit, by the way.
No. Well, I mean, okay, in their defense, like, I'm the same way with my channel here. If you look at my chat, I have the proud, distinguished position of having what I consider to be certified as the worst chat on this platform. TJ said that about my chat. And TJ was a drunken peasant. You remember, or maybe you don't, but lots of people remember what the old DP chats were like. This chat is the closest thing I can find to that, and it's because I kind of enforce a similar sort of thing, except I'm even more relaxed about it, and I can understand why they are reticent to ban people over positions, even when they are super insensitive. My ass would have gotten banned off of there years ago if it wasn't for that kind of relaxed policy, you know?
But, like, I don't know, I don't want to interrupt you on anything, but
no, yeah, go ahead.
It's just weird because like the hosts on DFF themselves on the show, they've repeatedly said that the reading comprehension of people on the internet is fucking retarded, and that they do not want. Can I say the word retarded?
Yeah. No, I don't give a shit.
Excellent. It's fucking retarded, and they don't want to cultivate that kind of audience at all. But I guess it's fine when it's on Reddit with a guy who like agrees more with the general vibe of the community. I guess he can just read shit and then like call some dude he doesn't know anything about a Ukrainian deserter. I guess that's fine.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to get too caught up in how they police their subreddit.
Yeah, I think that's not the topic, yeah.
Right, no, for sure. Maybe there is like a topic to be had there, but I feel like maybe that's like maybe a discussion for a different time, or perhaps at least when we're done with the topic at hand, which is like the morality of continuing the current policy in Ukraine. So what do you, like, okay, give me this will, I think, help us get started. Give me your, like, within the next year, okay? So within the last few months, there have been some incursions into Moscow by Ukraine that could be a positive sign that things are turning the other way. What is your year-out projection for how things are going to go? Just out of curiosity.
My projection is that, as in basically all geopolitical topics, shit's not going as well as it should Shit is not really going ideally, and I talked a lot with the with the guy I know that they are still holding, they are still absolutely pushing, and the problem is just the rate at which aid arrives is currently from the Ukrainian perspective, in terms of this being a forever war or not. That's like currently the
Okay,
biggest thing.
so maybe
I
this
know
is somewhere.
there's a lot of stuff being said on the internet about like Ukraine, like I don't know, like running out of people, or the people not wanting to continue shit or whatever, is that's largely untrue. There's just been a lot of frustration within the Ukrainian population with how it's going, and a lot of frustration with the West for sending aid so slowly and so like they're basically keeping them on an IV drip that keeps the keeps the front line where it is.
Right.
But
So
yeah.
I agree with your assessments up to this point, and I think that this is kind of the problem I run into a lot of times when I'm talking about this conflict. Because my solution to that is, okay, well let's see. You know, like first of all, I think we're going to need a different executive in there for this to even work as a plan. But in theory, there could possibly be some diplomatic option that hasn't been tried yet. I don't know that we've been privy to those conversations to a degree high enough to have like confirmation on that. And I don't know that I trust Joe Biden or anyone that it was like in his close circle to have been competent enough to work that out. So if that's not a solution, if that is tried and then just fails and just continues going nowhere, then here's my thing. Then we need to start like we just need to go over there. Like we need to like send a couple of carrier groups over towards Russia's western side, and we need to start shipping like tanks en masse to Ukraine and being like, all right, Russia, we're in this shit now. What are you going to do about it? Because we can push Russia out of Ukraine a hell of a lot faster than Ukraine can push Russia out of Ukraine. That's my argument. But every time I bring this up, someone acts like Russia's instantly going to nuke us for that. And I just don't see that.
Okay. Well, first of all, regarding the diplomacy, I know how it worked since the war began, and it's basically been Russia just putting up ridiculous demands that would basically leave Ukraine in a worse state than Germany post World War II, and basically making it more or less like a vassal state, like with Russia having veto on how much Ukraine can develop infrastructure or military or like
Yeah, those are
natural
obviously untenable
resources.
demands, right?
Yes,
I
of
get
course,
that.
and that's like
And
the
what I'm
whole
saying
fucking
is that,
point. Like, there's a
yeah,
whole fucking timeline from fucking I don't know, like April 22 up to 26.
right. But my whole point is that maybe that's not an option. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's actually been tried. I'm willing to put it out there that maybe it needs to be tried again because I don't know if it was really tried in good faith. But
Oh, it's been tried a
provided,
billion times.
okay,
Like,
and if that's true, well, if
there's
that's true,
been
then
sorry, yeah.
no, but if that's true, right, then let's go on to why is it a bad idea for America to roll tanks on Ukraine's eastern border in an effort to solidify that border and end the border dispute, push Russia out in a way that would be long lasting and long term. Long enough
Yeah,
for
but
Ukraine to be in like brought into NATO. At which point we wouldn't need to maintain like the same level of active military presence there because the like Article 5 at that point would protect them.
I mean, I think it's kind of important to like have context of what diplomacy has been tried and how many things and how many different ways have been attempted. And I feel like a lot of lefty circles, my guess is that whatever Twitter rabbit hole Paul Zigo is in is probably one of those. Not hating on the guy, I love him. I love all the DFF hosts, even though Scotty is the Golden King and superior, of course. But
I didn't
I
have you
mean,
pegged for a Scotties,
that's
I'll
a
admit.
there's a lot of shit that when lefties say like, hey man, like instead of trying diplomacy seriously, we keep sending them weapons, and the American military industrial complex is just like feeding off of Ukrainian babies dying and blah blah blah.
They
It's
are
just,
though.
that's
Like
complete.
that under the current
No,
situation, they are.
I mean, under the current
Well, you understand.
situation,
Yeah, well, yeah, because like because we're not going in there with our own military might, putting our own investment behind it, and then it's something we got to worry about, the taxpayers and all that, right? Right now, under the current situation, the U.S. taxpayers still have to pay for it, but Ukraine also ends up owing us a ton because a lot of this is being provided to them, at least when it comes to aid that's being provided to Ukraine from America in the form of military aid, is being provided with the Lend-Lease program, which creates national debt in whatever country accepts the Lend-Lease weapons. And that's so I
yes,
don't want
but
to create.
also with a caveat.
Sure.
Um, it's that like a lot of the early shit that America sent to Ukraine was like Cold War equipment that was literally costing the American, like that was literally costing the Pentagon billions of
Right.
dollars a year
We
to
were having to
maintain.
pay to store it. Right. We were having to pay to store it and
Yeah,
maintain it and
and
keep it in
basically,
mothballs.
basically the Pentagon made a profit without any Ukrainian money by just getting rid of that shit.
Yeah, but Ukraine's gonna like that bill comes due eventually. That's the whole point of the Lend-Lease
Yeah,
program, and
of course, of course. But
that's one of the reasons why we were able to like maintain that super strict close relationship with Europe for so long, is because like basically Lend-Lease plus the Marshall Plan, it helped Europe out a lot in a lot of different ways, but it
and
also kind
all of
of,
that would kind of be in jeopardy if Russia gets like an inch of Ukrainian land.
which is why we should roll tanks on Russia. See, like I don't get why we're not seeing eye to eye on this.
Yeah, I think the thing that you are overlooking is the concept of mutually assured nuclear destruction of
Oh, come
basically the
on.
entire world.
Hot take. We the Kremlin fully deserves the to experience the holy punitive cleansing nuclear fire.
But you
Okay?
do know that the retaliation of what's estimated to be up to 1,000 nukes
So
that are
that's why
currently
we
operational in silos in Russia and
that's
in Russian
that's
U-boats and in Russian like submarines on their fucking navy and
I'm
shit,
not I'm
that
not
like
saying
those
I'm
would
not
be
I'm not
launched
saying we nuke
before our
them.
shit arrives there. You do know
That's
that, right?
not how it works. I'm
Yes,
not
it
saying
is.
we. No, it's not. Because listen, America does all kinds of crap with our military that looks innocuous and really could be something else. And oftentimes, our enemies don't realize that what we're doing is not innocuous until we start launching missiles out of our ships. So what I'm saying is that expediently before this decision is made, we could surround Russia with our carrier groups. They don't have a navy that can fight ours. Um,
But
and
they
if
have enough
they
nuclear
decide,
submarines to like.
right, but that doesn't matter if they can't, like we know where Russia's nuke subs are. They know where
No,
ours are too.
we don't know where all of their nuke subs are.
Wait,
We do
what
not.
is that based on? It's just kind of like it's like the position of super important material like that is just like an open secret within the military intelligence community. It's like we in the public don't know where that shit is, but like I guarantee you,
No.
if I got I've got a dude who's a regular participant in my chat, mod in my chat, and a member of the channel that is a 20-year U.S. Air Force veteran with he had some clearances and stuff. He's actually shown me his shit too, so I actually know it. It's not just like some random in the chat. We're on friends on Discord and shit. And I guarantee you, if I ask Joey right now, do we have a vague idea about roughly where all of Russia's shit is? I almost guarantee you Joey would tell me that we do. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but my assumption is that we would be able to subvert any counterattack that they would possibly do before
Nah.
that it would have the chance to like set off its nuclear warhead, because like you understand, like an ICBM that's loaded with a nuclear warhead, you can shoot that down without causing the nuke to explode, right? You like that's a thing you can do.
But like, do you understand what kind of like numbers of warheads we are talking about? Like, it's they know.
Well, yeah, we need
Like
some
Russia
preparation
knows
for
this
it.
about Russia knows this about NATO, and NATO know this about Russia, that it will, like, the number of nukes that are in salvos ready for the first like fucking burst is so fucking high that if we successfully, like, I don't know, if we fucking what's the fucking Armageddon movie where they send the shit to intercept the meteor that's coming? I don't know. But yeah, like if we successfully intercept all of them and disable them in the sky, if the success rate is 99%, the world is still fucked. You understand that, right?
No,
yes,
it is not.
Is. There's no more New York, no more Berlin, no more. No more London, no more LA, no more Washington.
Maybe industrial society has had its chance. This is where it needs to go. This is the line we need to set it under. And, like, we'll just see how it pans out.
No, once nukes are deployed, the world is over.
You
Basically.
know I'm trolling, right? You know I'm kidding.
I have no fucking idea.
Listen, let me explain. Okay, I do think that we need to step up our efforts. Like, we need to actively enter the conflict as an active combatant. But I'm more or less joking about the idea of nuking them. I'm just kind of trying to point out...
I mean not the idea of nuking them.
Let me just finish, right?
Finish.
It's a point, right? You remember how Paul used to bring up... I don't know how long you've been watching the show, but there used to be this running gag on DFF and DP before it. Paul's Bring on the Nukes thing.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, right? My projection is that if this continues as it is going right now, and America continues trickling aid into Ukraine at enough of a rate for them to maintain the lines but not make much progress, and China and Russia's allies continue to supply them, and Russia continues to supply itself with enough to keep that stalemate going, then eventually one of them might just get desperate enough, like, provided Ukraine manages to put enough pressure on them, Russia might end up getting fucking stressed enough to just fucking launch the nukes anyway. Who's to say that Israel is the only country with a Samson option in mind, right? And so my thing is, if this conflict is going to eventually devolve into some kind of nuclear Armageddon anyway, then we need to just go ahead and do what is, in my opinion, the most empathetic thing, which is trying to stop this conflict before it gets there by drawing a firm line that Russia is unlikely to cross, because they understand that they can pull out of the conflict now, retain some of their global dignity, maybe rebuild their relationships over the next 20 years, rather than dooming the entire planet to nuclear Armageddon.
But that is like, if we fucking parachute in fucking Mark Wahlberg with his sniper rifle and he takes out Putin, that's nukes. You understand that, right?
Why?
That's nukes
Why?
flying. Because
Why?
Russia has a God, who was it? The former, like, he was the former president of Russia and is currently, I think, the head of the Defense Council. Weird ass name, like Medvedev or something. Something stupid.
Medvedev.
Yeah, he's publicly stated basically like a list of shit that would cause Russia to basically fire on all silos. Yeah.
So
yeah.
you see what I'm
saying? How did
here?
Brett King put it? Like
fire on all cinder blocks?
Yeah, exactly. The fucking yeah. Russia would fire on all cinder blocks. Yeah.
Maybe they would. Let me read this super chat from.
I mean, at that point, we're fucked.
Yeah, let me just read the super chat real quick, and I'll promise we'll get right back to it. The thing is that a lot of nuclear weapons are MIRVs, basically cluster munitions, designed to deploy into multiple projectiles to overwhelm preventative measures.
Yes.
That is true, and that's something that I was kind of purposefully leaving out when I was kind of trying to make my point about how, like, eventually this is going to devolve into nuclear Armageddon anyway, because, like, yeah, I don't know that we could 100% prevent the sort of Armageddon that they would do, but I also don't know if there's anything that we can do to prevent that in the first place. Who's to say that Ukraine won't eventually get so desperate that they do try some Mark Wahlberg shit, and who's to say they don't end up getting a shot off?
I mean, yeah, but
what if they end up starting nuclear Armageddon, and, like, we could have prevented it by just drawing a firm line?
No, but that would be just Russia nuking Ukraine because of Mark Wahlberg. that wouldn't be Russia nuking both coasts of the US and every single fucking capital city in Europe, and probably Israel too, just for the meme.
Why would they do that? Okay, so wait, why would they okay, that makes no sense. Why would they retaliate to one specific country if they do that, but they're going to retaliate against the whole world if we do it? That doesn't make any sense.
Because if we do it, then it's NATO doing it. If it's Ukrainian Mark Welbergov doing it with his sniper rifle, then it's just Ukraine doing it. That's the difference. Right?
Who's supporting Ukraine in the current conflict?
Mainly, indirectly NATO. Indirectly. That's the fucking point.
That's weird.
That's the point. That's why we
Is
don't
it?
like. Yes, it is. It is. That's why. Yeah.
Just like listen. I don't.
No, I'm sorry. That's
true.
just the way.
I don't think that there is a distinction here. I think that it's just as likely that Russia decides to retaliate against the whole world if Ukraine takes out Putin, if that's one of their preconditions, that if America does that. I don't think it makes that much of a freaking difference. I think that Russia is currently led by a highly unstable government. They're as liable to do any of these dangerous things at any given point in time as they are to do anything peaceful or reasonable. So it's like...
So basically your point is just like acceleration maxing and let's just bring on World War III now.
No, I actually think what I'm advocating for would be preventing a worse form of accelerationism that I feel like people on your side tend to be advocating for in just the endless perpetuation of this conflict with
That's not acceleration, that's keeping the same speed.
Keeping the same speed is accelerationism if you're going down a hill and you've got the option to tap the brakes.
Yeah, but your option is like, let's just ignite this pound of C4 in the trunk and hope that it stops the car, maybe. Like, NATO getting directly involved against Russian troops, like, that's... How is that not accelerationism? Like, how is moving it from an indirect...
What? Can I...
Like, moving it from Ukrainian soldiers shooting German guns at Russians to American soldiers shooting American guns at Russians. Like, don't you see there's a difference in
Let me ask you this.
Who Russia would hold responsible? Because
the Germans aren't pulling the trigger. No, I'll explain why. Because let me just ask you this. Put yourself in, if you can stand it, put yourself in the mindset of a poor Russian draftee that's been sent to the front lines, just like those poor Ukrainian draftees and volunteers and reservists and stuff, right? And your chest has just been pierced by an American bullet fired from a German gun that was supplied by a French logistics company. Do you think
the Ukrainian
much
pulled
about
the
fact
trigger?
That it was a Ukrainian that pulled the trigger?
Yes,
I don't
because
think
then
so.
a Ukrainian
I think you care
what
about
the fuck?
all of them. I think you would care about all of it. In your last dying breaths, I think you would not just be saying, fuck the Ukrainians. I think you would also be saying, fuck the Americans.
That doesn't matter. You live in
and
America,
fuck
right?
NATO.
You live in America,
of course
right?
I live in America. Yeah.
And
can't you tell? Look around.
Wait, yeah, and you're a minority. So if eventually, like the great struggle starts in America and some fucking groiper shoots you with an AK, are you gonna be mad at Vladimir Putin or are you gonna be mad at the groiper who shot you? Because he used an AK.
The AK has been widely exported and is manufactured by a bunch of different
yeah, but let's say he used the Russian one. He got it on that fucking dark web. You can buy AKs. Like, I watched a documentary like 5 years ago that apparently you can get them for
Is it a pre-94 AK or is it a post-94 AK?
Oh, it's the pre one with the high quality wooden finish that's been, carefully maintained.
I might actually be honored.
Yeah, it probably even has like truck nuts on the side.
truck nuts.
So if those
Okay.
truck nuts are from Temu and made in China, and an American Groiper shoots you with a Russian AK with Chinese truck nuts on them, are you gonna be mad at the Groiper, or are you gonna be mad at the pre-94 Russians and the fucking Temu worker?
I think I'm gonna be mad at all of them. Is the point?
Really,
I
you
might
think?
like my first thought is probably going to be anger and frustration at the crazy Groiper carrying the gun. Yes, but I think if I've got enough time to reckon with the thoughts, then eventually, yes, I believe my mind would eventually land on blaming my country and
But
China and every other country that has kind of
wait,
allowed this
but
foul
just
system to go
because
on.
but just because some Russian guy with like a dark web eBay account sold an AK to some random Groiper, and he didn't shoot you with an AR-15 like a proper white person would have.
Yeah.
That,
Okay. So
but
here,
does that mean? Wait, does that mean that it's basically an act of war from Russia against an American?
no,
Because
no,
yes,
but if
exactly.
Russia, no, but it's a different situation because we're not talking about like some random Russian trying to make a buck on the dark web. We're talking about a coordinated campaign of support that NATO is engaging in, and I think that they're right to engage in. I just don't think we're right to pussyfoot around about it.
The You mean by pussyfooting? You mean supplying Ukrainians in their struggle rather than sending
I
in
mean,
our
supplying them
conscripts?
like we're okay. So I'm not. I don't even like know if we would need to like gather more troops. We would definitely need to pull out of Iran before we did this shit, and we would need to resupply for a good
Oh,
long
we're not
while.
gonna pull out of Iran. Iran is grippy as fuck.
Yeah, no, but we're talking about we're talking about our hopes and dreams here, not achievable shit that we're actually going to see in our lifetimes, right? That's kind of the whole point of the conversation, right? Is that we're looking at this quagmire, and all of us that are involved in one way or the other, whether it's watching it from across the world, as you know, your tax dollars are being spent to further that conflict without any resolution in sight, or whether you've actually got family members and people that are deeply in the shit. We're all looking at this quagmire and trying desperately to figure out some solution that preserves the dignity of the human beings involved, but also doesn't but I guess that's really the best way to put it. That preserves the dignity of the people involved, because it does not preserve the dignity of the people of Ukraine to continue trickling in aid or to just ramp up aid to the point where, well, we're giving them all the American different weapon systems and everything, and they're just not pushing back. Oh
Yeah, but
well.
using Ukraine as the sacrificial altar to kill world peace on is like also
I
like to
kind of feel like that's what is already being done. I'm
yeah,
kind
that's
of
being
looking
done
for
by
us to
Russia
end that
currently.
conflict. Right, and we're not doing shit to stop it besides just like trickling in aid
Yeah,
and
so why
acting
don't we
like
flood
diplomacy is
in
not an
aid?
option.
Why
Well,
don't
what
we
kind of aid
flood
are we
in
talking
aid
about
instead of
flooding in?
flooding in troops?
Are
What?
we talking about flooding in like M1A8 Abrams and Bradleys? Or are we talking about like fucking equipment that would make a difference? Are we talking about giving Ukraine the possibility to have air superiority over Western Russia?
Um,
That'd be a thing.
yes, but the way my Ukrainian homeboy explained it to me is that air superiority is kind of not the issue because it's basically a drone and trench war.
Exactly. Maybe they could make some more progress if they could achieve air superiority.
Maybe, yeah, but then you'd have to but the problem with air superiority is that like a lot of aircraft have been kind of made it's kind of impossible to have aircraft because they're gonna get droned before they take off.
That's not true at all. I mean,
It
like
kind
maybe
of
it is
is,
right
yeah.
now. Maybe it is
Yeah.
right now under certain circumstances, but
Like
um,
Ukraine bombed like a dozen Russian airfields, and
right, yeah.
yeah,
but I'm talking about like we've got military bases all throughout Western Europe. Some of them are pretty close to Ukraine. It would not be that hard for us to, if we wanted to, uh, either dispatch or what is the word, deploy. If we wanted to deploy a like an air unit or something over there, or we wanted to deploy an air unit to train Ukrainians in the use of F-35 two Lightnings
That's
and
already happening.
F-17s and stuff like that. Right, I know it is, but if we were to step that up to the point where they can actually achieve meaningful air superiority, which they can do by taking off from airfields in western Ukraine that are not under threat, that are unable to be droned, and you can't drone a plane after it gets up in the, not the planes we're talking about. You can drone a little commercial plane or whatever, but when you're talking about fighter jets and A-10 Warthogs and shit, you can't just drone that fucking thing. You gotta launch a cruise missile at it or an
Yeah, but
interceptor of some kind.
just the way I understand it is that fighter jets are not really the meta anymore in the Ukraine war. Like
No, but
they,
that's why I just mentioned the A-10 Warthog too, right? Because the A-10 Warthog is still, it's basically the only close-in air support vehicle that we still have, and it does have kind of a bad reputation for friendly fire, but if you're talking about using it against areas of known Russian embedding, then like an A-10 Warthog can take down a tank. It can even take down those turtle tanks that Russia uses so often. It can break up. It can drop bombs. It can launch rockets and missiles, and it's got the I think it's a 30 millimeter Vulcan cannon on it that is pretty much
yeah,
the most famous
it's
feature of the Warthog, right? But
yes.
I'm saying that stuff like that could actually make a big dent, in my opinion, in like what Ukraine is able to achieve and whether or not this war ends up lasting 5 more years, 10 more years, 20 more years, which I could see happening under the current situation.
Um, yes, but that's like kind of my point that basically changing the aid trickle from a trickle to a flood would basically not solve the entire thing, but it would bankrupt the Russian military before they can like get any kind of reasonable gains in Ukraine that could actually threaten Ukrainian like sovereignty, because they are already running out of shit, kind of, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, in fact, the military parades that Putin holds every year in Moscow, like there's actually like less trucks and tanks in there, and like 90% only troops for the last 2 years, because that shit has been moved to Ukraine because they can't even afford to have like like the fucking ad
The
models anymore.
propaganda, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can't even afford to like let the civilians window shop anymore, because like they have to send all that shit out. So it's not like the aid isn't doing anything. It's not like the war isn't going anywhere. But the problem is that many Ukrainians think that the slow trickle of aid is basically what's keeping the front lines where they are. And I think that NATO forces directly being deployed in Ukraine would basically mean World War III. So I don't see any other solution rather than increasing aid volume.
I could not disagree more. I think there are a number of solutions. I still feel like we and I know you've got more familiarity with the conflict than I do, at least more direct familiarity and stuff. But I still feel like we have a tendency to, like any of us that are like on the Ukraine should be free side, which I like to think that I am. I might have unconventional methods for thinking how that might be achieved, but I definitely don't want to see Russia take over Ukraine. And I like to think that as a person that is on that side, at least in some fashion, that I can at least speak to some of the tendencies that I've noticed. And one of the tendencies I've noticed is this kind of presumption that diplomacy has been tried exhaustively, and there's just no way that it can possibly work because Putin is just unreasonable and the Russian government's unreasonable, And I don't know if I buy that. I really think, like, have we had a competent executive and a circle of competent negotiators since this conflict popped off? Not really.
I mean, there's been negotiations in Belarus. Those failed because Russia's demands were fucking insane. There
Well, that's what
were
I'm
like
saying, though.
in
What if
in
Russia's
Antalya. There were in Istanbul. Those failed because Russia demanded basically control over basically whether Ukraine could like be a first world country or not. Like they wanted a veto to stop to stop like infrastructure development, to stop like natural resource extraction development, all that shit. Like that's what they demanded. It would basically be like Weimar Republic Germany on steroids. And like even in 22, like in July there was like there was the so-called like the what was it, the Black Sea grain deal that allowed Ukraine to keep exporting grains because like the fucking seed oils all around the world became expensive as shit. And of course that's something that Westerners actually cared about, is that the deep fryer oil like tripled in price. And
Yeah, not
yeah,
exactly surprising that that elicited our attention.
yeah, but Russia ripped that up half a year later for like no fucking reason, even though the Ukrainians were like all they were doing with that shit is like because Russia basically said their ability to export grains and like seed oils and shit basically fueled their military economy. So yeah, they ripped that shit up, and now those ships are getting bombed again, and nothing happens. That was in like I think 2023, and like Ukraine even tried to shift to like mainly talking to different global leaders, so maybe they could be like intermediates and like play like the mailman between Ukraine and Russia. That shit also didn't work because Russia kept harping on those stupid fucking demands of basically we will control Ukraine and their development. And like there were attempts of mediation from like 7 different countries, like Turkey, China, the fucking Vatican. I had that noted down. Brazil and Russia still didn't budge on anything. It's fucking retarded. Like diplomacy has been tried in so many different fucking ways.
But has it been tried with a competent set of negotiators coming from America to do their thing?
Yes, they literally went to like not only America but like
They,
NATO
though, like,
leadership, ICC leadership, fucking the Swiss government. They went to fucking everyone, to the fucking Vatican, and tried.
you don't think that if there was, like, if we elected a really strong, actually good administration office, and they were, like, actually competent politicians, you don't think that there's a chance that those negotiations might go a different way? That Russia might decide to, like, finally play ball if they see that there's a strong executive and a strong circle around them that will ensure that, like, Ukraine's sovereignty is preserved? Because I personally do. I don't think
Not
that, like I
under
said, I don't
Vladimir
think.
Putin.
Well, he's not an immortal, is he?
Well, but at that point you are talking about like either waiting for him to die or accelerating that process, which would probably get us back to nuclear annihilation.
I'm talking about an old man, probably, not being that long for the world anyway. From what I understand, Putin's health has been kind of been in question for a while, hasn't it?
That's mostly like I feel like those I've read those articles and those rumors, but it's very it's hard to say whether those are legit or propaganda.
Yeah. Well, it's also hard to tell necessarily if that's going to lead to something because, we here in America have known that Trump, for example, is sick as a dog, and,
Fuck
look what.
this Oh, what the fuck is the guy's name? The fucking dead Republican Senate guy who's like apparently
Mitch
alive and like
McConnell.
yes, Mitch McConnell. Yes, maybe Putin is being Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
That's the
no,
thing. We don't really know, dude. We don't really know. But
but
yeah.
the problem is that under Putin, I don't think it matters who is the American president, um, because their demands are just so extreme and so unreasonable, and they have their dick so far up in like the beehive.
Yeah. Um.
Like they basically like they put their dick in the beehive and then the bee stung it and then the inside part swelled up to like the size of a watermelon and now they feel like they can't pull it out anymore, basically.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I do agree with that more than some of the other
So
things that have been
like
said.
diplomacy seems to be like not really an option, sadly.
So, let's put a pin in this for just a second so I can use the bathroom and kind of like shift things around. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, of course. I can.
Okay.
I've been reading chat. It's hilarious. It's like
Oh yeah.
mostly like I don't know, like mostly transphobes and
Oh yeah, they're the most
some guy
absurd
asking
people.
whether it's pre-recorded or not. Yes, bro. It's pneumopias. It's pre-recorded. Yeah. I just guessed that maybe somebody with your name would write this shit, so I could answer. Like we recorded this like 2 months ago, you know. So I hope that by the time this airs, Putin hasn't had a stroke or anything, because then this whole conversation would be pointless. Okay, there's a guy with a very interesting username. What the fuck? That's like definitely one of the usernames I've ever seen.
Chat behaving.
Um, I think we're chilling.
Sorry about that.
All good.
I want to move this operation outside so I can smoke a bowl while we chat, but for some reason my regular mic isn't connecting. So I guess I might just. So here's what I'm gonna do. Um, it'll just be one second. I promise. I'm just gonna switch how I'm coming into the studio, basically. So give me just 1 second.
All good. Is this a solo stream now? I don't think Phoebe's from Ukraine. I don't know who the ice cold coffee guy, whether he was talking to me. Phoebe's, I think, American.
Yes, I am indeed American.
Welcome back.
Okay, so sorry about that.
All good?
I'm
All
just
good.
gonna move outside real quick.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to mute my mic for just a second though. Alrighty. Where's my flashlight at? There it is. You still hear me?
Yep.
Maybe I can't do that. Okay. Guess I have to use my other flashlight. Shoot. Okay, so I feel like we've agreed some and we've disagreed some so far.
I feel like the main disagreement is whether or not NATO troops fighting in Ukraine against Russian troops directly would be a good idea.
Right. And I think that pretty much, from what I can tell, hinges on whether or not you think that Russia is going to employ a nuclear option against that kind of intrusion. I don't think that's likely. You seem to think that that's highly likely. So I want to see if we can figure out the nature of that disagreement.
Yeah, I think there's a good reason why for the past 80 years the West has been kind of iffy about engaging Russian troops directly. I feel like there's a reason why especially America has had like a dozen proxy wars instead of wars. And Russia seems to be of the same opinion since what was it fucking the billion the Vietnam War, for example, where they supplied the Viet Cong against Americans. I feel like it's just the general consensus that NATO troops directly firing at Russian troops is the end of the world.
I just don't think I agree with your predictive model, because from what I can tell, it seems to be based on the notion that sorry. From what I can tell, it seems to be based on the notion that because America, a country which you have identified to have some similar tendencies, has acted this way in the past, that automatically means Russia's necessarily going to act the same way in the future. And I don't know if that actually like holds logically, you know?
I feel like looking at the past is probably like the best chance of a predictor that we have in terms of looking towards the future.
Sure, and I would agree with you. Yeah, I'm not disputing that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. I'm just saying that like that usually applies to the thing that you're talking about. Like if someone's done this in the past, they're more likely to do it in the future. You know, if a specific country
Yeah, but
has like
also if
engaged this
someone's
way, they're more
avoided
likely to do it in
something
the
in the
future.
past, there's probably a reason for that, right?
What do you mean? Clarify.
Like, if both sides of the Cold War have avoided directly sending their troops to fight the other side's troops, I think that avoidance has a pretty clear reason, and that reason is like 10,000 nukes on each side pointed at each other's rectums.
I think that reason is actually a lot more banal and cynical than you're giving it credit for. I think it's got a lot less to do with the nuclear arsenals and a lot more to do with America on the one side, being a country that has basically since the post-war years been reliant on its military-industrial complex for a big chunk of its economy, and on the side of Russia, you've got a different set of oligarchs that stand to benefit tremendously from their various incursions into other countries not being met with Western interference. So, like, we've got all of this incentive to continue engaging in proxy wars, regardless of how they work out in the future. And Russia's got all this incentive to want us to not, and to not want to directly confront us and to not want us to directly confront them. And I think it's all money. I just think it's all billionaire interests conspiring together to, not necessarily conspiring together, but conspiring together separately, I guess, to confer the highest amount of benefit to themselves and the least amount to any of the working class people that are going to be caught up in these conflicts.
I feel like if that were true, Russia would have sent like 200,000 Russian soldiers into Vietnam. Because the Vietnamese didn't, the Viet Cong didn't use all the nice expensive shit that would have really helped Russia's economy and military industrial complex, grand conspiracy, blah blah blah, rich people bad. I feel like both sides would have much more incentive to send in the big toys. And
well, that's the
I
thing, though. If you
don't think
send in
I
the big
think
toys, you might actually like clear out the conflict in pretty short order. And what good does that do for the maintenance of a forever war?
I don't think that $50 drones and NATO caliber ammunition is like really what the military industrial complex makes its bank on, to be honest. Like, I don't think, like, I agree that there's a whole lot of problems with corruption in basically all of the world's militaries and quite a lot of governments.
But surely you're not
And
making the argument that it's just NATO caliber ammunition and $50 drones that are going into Ukraine. I mean, they're talking about getting like Patriot missile batteries. They're talking about like they've already got manpads and javelins that are American supplied. So it's quite a bit more than just NATO caliber shells and $50 drones. It's quite a bit more at this.
yeah, but I think it's kind of um kind of very, 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 I don't know how to say this, very like lefty brained to reduce the like a conflict about like one of the world's biggest natural resource fields, which is in Ukraine, which is basically untapped, to them wanting to like make more money on sending weapons there forever. That's, I feel like, if this whole conflict was really just a profit motive, then they would just end it yesterday and start mining Ukrainian national gas.
That's not the right part of industry to be helping out, though. That's not the that wouldn't that like that would be more in line with what I'm saying about trying to actually like secure a victory long term. The MIC
Yeah,
isn't
because
interested in
that
that
would be
kind of
way
thing because
more. Because that would be way, way, way more profitable for the winning side.
it would be more profitable for like a broader swath of American companies and a broader swath of like, probably Ukrainian people, but it would not like it would not be that different.
Probably not really for the Ukrainian people. They have a shit ton of debt to work off with those national gas fields. But I feel like there's one more point that you mentioned is the whole what a peaceful resolution could look like in like shared custody of the Donbass or some shit like that, which I rather vehemently disagree with.
So yeah, I get pushback from this all the time, but yeah, let me just throw it out there. I don't see any reason why Russia or Ukraine should have any problem with just having a certain section of Ukraine that is like fundamentally Ukrainian territory, but where Russian people are able to move there or do business there. Russian trucks are able to go through just like Ukrainian trucks can and stuff like that. Some kind of like demilitarized zone of shared custody where there's like an ability for Russia to access the seaports that they want to be able to get to on the Crimean Peninsula, and for Ukraine to be able to like retain sovereignty over that land and ownership over that land and a stake in the profits that are made there. I don't see why that is always treated like it is such an untenable thing to suggest.
Because it's basically Ukraine giving up their national sovereignty of those parts to basically revive the political construct that like less than 100 years ago did like one of the biggest genocides of all time against the Ukrainian people. Like I feel like there's more than enough reasons for Ukrainians to not want to compromise on national sovereignty against Russia.
I'm not
Like you
asking
do
them to
know that like
compromise on
less
national sovereignty. I'm
like
asking them to
in the
compromise on
30s
the.
they killed like 13 to 15% of the Ukrainian population.
Oh, you'll hear me making no apologetics for the Soviets. I was
I
joking
know.
about asking if it was a pre 94 AK. I'm not
No, I
attacking,
know. But
so I'm not sure where you're going with this.
yeah, because any shared custody agreement means shared custody of the Ukrainian people's sovereignty with the people who basically did the fucking Holodomor and then invaded them and then got shared custody out of it. It's ridiculous. Like you're asking, like if Germany invaded Israel, I don't think Israel would be okay with giving like a single parking lot of shared custody to Germany. That would
Israel
be like,
won't even give a single parking lot of shared custody to the fucking Palestinians. What are you talking about?
yes, exactly. So like, but like with the history that Russia and Ukraine have, if there's one single country where the national sovereignty will not be like fucked
Yeah, but
with
we're not talking about
from the
national sovereignty. Like,
Ukrainians,
that's the
it's
thing.
the fucking
You keep
Russians,
subverting
bro.
these two things. You keep connecting these two things, and I don't think there is a connection. I think Ukraine can maintain its own sovereignty and ownership over that land. And also, maybe at some point, let Russia do some business down there.
It's
Maybe
fucking
there's a
insane.
highway that could connect the two countries.
It's
Like, let me
insane.
ask you this. Let me ask you this.
It's an enemy
Do you at the
state.
very least see a possibility for some future where Russians and Ukrainians can embrace each other as brothers? Because they
Um,
are people over there.
along
You know that, right?
along entirely fixed borders that ideally also include Crimea in Ukraine and basically include all the land that
Can I
Ukraine is
ask,
held.
why is it so important that, like, Russia, Ukraine, or any other fucking, like, country maintains ownership over these borders, like, on a long enough time scale? Like, is it spiritually important, or is it, like, pragmatically important for right now because Russia is an unstable state?
It's important in basically every lens of observation. Like, where do you want to start? It's important for like their national, like their identity. Like, you
Well,
live
see, I
in
don't believe in
America.
the
Like,
idea of
America is a
nations.
country that exists.
Right, but I don't
Nobody
believe in
is
the idea of,
invading America, right?
of course. Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
So
But
if
do you,
basically if North Korea started invading America and basically it wouldn't be like a border moving, it would be like, I don't know if you have a kid, I think you have a kid. It would be like your
yes.
kid growing up in a North Korean school and being ruled by Kim Jong-un and like whoever follows the throne after him. Like, I don't think that's just like, why would I care where the border is drawn on the map? Like, there's some random rich people somewhere with like Google Maps open that draw borders, and that's like, no, I don't think that's how it works. Like,
I
Ukrainian
guess
people
what I'm
want
asking
freedom
is
from
like,
Russian influence. Yes.
I guess what I'm asking is like, do you think it's important for Ukraine to hold its borders and what you think should be its borders? And maybe I would even agree, but do you think it's like important for them to do so because it will guarantee their security in this current system? Or do you think, because I want to get down into some like moral differences maybe and see if there's maybe some deeper things that are keeping us from seeing eye to eye, because maybe there are just some fundamental differences in how we look at the world. Maybe there's not. Maybe we just or not seeing eye to eye on this, and that's fine. But my question is this: is it important because this is the system we're in right now? There's an unstable nation that constantly wants to invade Ukraine, so it's better if they secure their borders and we maintain that until we evolve out of that? Or do you actually think that states and borders and nations are like morally or spiritually or otherwise necessary for some intangible reason?
Okay, I think that if I live in a house with a nice garden and next to me there's the, I don't know, like Jeffrey Dahmer, who piles up dead bodies up to the border of his garden and my garden, I think it's rather important that the fence doesn't move, right? And in that analogy, the fucking Putin regime has a direct line that is drawn between them and a country that wants to be free, a people that wants to be free, people who live in the border region that want to be free from Russian oppression. So yeah, it's kind of important that that border stays there, and it has nothing to do with some spiritual attachment, some like
So it is pragmatic then. It's not
esoterical.
like you
Yes, it's
it's not like you
entirely
think it's
pragmatic.
like
Yes.
you don't think it's like morally or spiritually important that Ukraine be called Ukraine and have the borders it have. You just think that for the like integrity and preservation of the human beings living in that state. I just want to make sure we're
Yes,
seeing eye to eye on this. I'm not saying
yes.
necessarily I agree with this framing, but you're saying that it's necessary for the security of the people living in that state for that border to be secure. Not necessarily that it's a good thing that it's there, that it's a good thing that borders exist in general, but that in this specific case, it's one of those things where we really can't advance past this system unless we do it on a global scale. And until we do that, we have to kind of work within the system we're in. Is that it?
Yeah, we're not talking about like the
Okay.
border between like Austria and Germany, where like basically like the same moral compass guides the governments. We are talking about the border of a country that's trying and has been trying for decades to be a free country and free from its bully neighbor that used to be its parent that like genocided 20% of their population. And and right across the border is the people who want to subjugate the shit out of them. Like, yes, I think,
Right. Well, here's the thing. Surely you
like, I
don't think
don't
that the Russian people want to subjugate Ukrainian people.
know,
This
but
is the thing I also feel like
the
that
government
gets,
that rules the people within the Russian border.
yeah, but that's the thing. You can't, I, me as an anarchist, man, it breaks my fucking heart when people do this. And I'm not trying to guilt you or whatever. I'm just telling you how I feel. It breaks my fucking heart when people make the critical mistake of conflating a nation and its state and its government with the people, right? Because I think that unless you are actually talking about a really effective, good representative democracy or something, then that's like that conflation is dangerous because it implies a lot of public consent that in a lot of cases isn't there. For example, if somebody were to describe the American people as genocidal toward the people of Iran, I would be like, well, fuck you. No, we're not. Most Americans oppose the Iran war. We want to see justice in this conflict, not continued oppression and genocide. But our government certainly wants to see continued genocide and shit like that. But think about how many people don't relate, and then think about how true that might be
Yeah,
in a
but the
place like
problem
Russia,
is
where they've
that
been conscripted for so long.
the area within the border is ruled by people who have a very, very different understanding of like moral prescriptions and what like individual freedoms should be than the people on the other side of that border. That's why the border is important. Not because
I don't buy this. Can I just tell you why? Because the whole thing that I just remembered, the whole thing that got this started, I believe the Reddit post, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Reddit post that inspired the argument that got us here in the first place,
it was about a gas
like
station.
footage? Yeah, it was a gas station. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like Ukraine, like killed some civilians at a gas station or whatever, and so it's just like, okay,
They
maybe
bombed
you
the
could make
gas
the argument that
station.
they.
They bombed a gas station that was presumably being used to fuel troop movements to
That's
the
the
border.
same exact argument that Israel makes against Palestinians whenever they bomb some civilian infrastructure over in Gaza or in the West Bank. They claim that it's being used by Hamas as a base location and a place to coordinate and a place to refuel, a place to whatever,
No,
right?
but the
Whatever
problem
the
is
civilian,
Hamas is a
but
random
no,
terrorist
it's the same.
organization.
No, but yeah, exactly. And so is the
And
excuse that,
no,
oh, this Russian gas station that happened to be serving civilians and troops is a worthy target because it happened to be serving troops. It doesn't matter, right? If
no,
it's
no, 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 no,
wrong,
no, no, no.
we
That's
have to
wrong.
have a consistent moral standard on this.
No, that's wrong. Because the Russian government is in a wartime economy and they can and do simply what's the fucking word? Like they can just claim civilian infrastructure to be used for military means. And if that's what happens with a gas station, then that gas station is used by the Russian military to
You
advance their invasion into Ukraine.
you only feel this way because of your associations with this conflict. And if it were any other situation, you would agree with me. When Israel bombs some piece of civilian infrastructure in Gaza, you don't side with Israel and talk about how, well, Hamas is a pretty crazy organization. They don't have a whole lot of scruples. Maybe they were using it as a
Wait,
base.
but
You
let's
condemn
flip it.
it
Let's
with the
flip it.
rest of us.
Let's say on the Israel-Gaza border, you know, there's a civilian, there's like a supermarket that basically the Israeli military uses to supply their fucking IDF troops on the other side of the border with snacks and food. And if that supermarket didn't exist, and the logistics to supply that supermarket didn't exist, then a significant part of the IDF forces on the other side would like not be able to be
Well,
sufficiently
you know what?
supplied with, I don't know,
Actually,
Twinkies and shit like that.
you know what? You've
Do
convinced me,
you?
but I think you hold on, hold on. I think you've convinced me, but you know what? I want to take it a step further. Why don't we start bombing Russian orphanages? Because how are they going to continue to make more soldiers if they don't have poor little kids growing up in their orphan systems? Besides, those kids probably don't value their lives all that much anyway, and I'm sure that a lot of those orphanages are producing Russian soldiers who are just going to eventually grow up to be bloodthirsty Russian adults who will be conscripted into the Russian army and go kill Ukrainians for fun and sport. So we might as well just start bombing orphanages under that logic.
I don't think that analogy
It would
tracks.
be a real quick way to get rid of Russian soldiers, wouldn't it?
I don't think that analogy tracks at all.
I think
I'm
it does,
sorry.
and I don't think
Like
you want
I
to.
get what
I don't
you
think
were
you want
trying
to
to
face.
do.
I don't think you want to face the reality of that analogy because you know it shatters your argument. And all you need to do
No,
here is admit that all
I'm
you need to
sorry. It
do,
absolutely doesn't.
all you need to do here is just admit that war crimes happen, are avoidable, suck every fucking time, can never be condoned, and are fucked up regardless of who does them and what reason why they do them. That's all you got to
Wait,
do.
like, okay, is punching someone who didn't punch you first, is that bad?
We're not talking about a specific individual conflict with two people who clearly have a stake in the fucking goings on of what's happening. We're talking about a piece of civilian infrastructure that had a line of people waiting to get gas being bombed while a bunch of civilians were waiting there to refuel on their way to work.
But that is not
Those motherfuckers didn't have
comparable.
anything to do with the conflict.
That is not comparable to the like.
I don't know. I just don't get why you can't condemn this. We both agree Russia shouldn't be invading Ukraine. We both agree Ukraine is probably going to have to use some unconventional methods to get
Okay,
there.
I
But
don't
why can't
agree
we
because
agree that it's wrong to bomb a fucking civilian gas station?
because a dictatorship in a wartime economy claiming the use of a gas station for their military infrastructure makes that gas station military infrastructure. And
We did
that
not
has
want to
not.
bomb the hospital. We did not want to bomb Rafah hospital, but we had to. You see, Hamas claims that these are merely just
Did you just
hospitals,
hit
but
me
they
with
are
a
in
fucking
fact.
Jewish accent?
I am trying a hackneyed Jewish accent. I'm sorry.
It was disturbingly good, and I don't condone the use of the Jewish accent to talk about bombing hospitals. I
Okay,
disavow.
yeah, that's wrong. Well,
I
wait, hold
disavow.
on. I was no. It wasn't just some vague Jewish accent. Let me clarify. I was specifically doing a Netanyahu impression. So, just to clarify.
Okay. I still disavow just to be on the safe side.
No, that's fine. That's fair. Hey, I'm in. Listen, Dan. I was forged in the crucible of drunken peasants and deep fat pride. I am a product of my makers.
Okay, yeah. But like,
Anyway, my point is, like,
because
they use the
Hamas
same
isn't a
example.
government. Hamas isn't a government.
Israel certainly claims they are.
Yeah, but Israel is kind of wrong about that. Hamas is like a terror organization that had like 10,000 members before the conflict started.
Right. I
In a
know.
country, in a population. I know, like in a, let's say, country, but officially it's like a
So
ex-British
would it?
mandate, no man's land that's free for anyone for the taking who is like wants to
Can I
buy
just ask you
anything.
something?
Apparently, yeah.
We don't know much because the fog of war prevents us from knowing much about who died in that hit. But let's just say that in that line of cars that were disabled, damaged, the people inside killed, waiting outside that gas station. Let's just say there was a car seat in the back of one of them.
If
And
my mom was at that gas station, I'd be blaming Vladimir Putin.
you'd be too young to have anyone to blame. I don't want to cry on this stream, but that's what gets me about this kind of thing, right? Is when people make excuses for this shit, I see I see my own son's eyes staring back at me from the back of that car seat, and I imagine his little body being blown to a million smithereens, and then that act being condoned and defended on the basis of flimsy geopolitical arguments, on the basis of the ends justifying the means.
No,
And
it's
I
because
want to weep for those
war
people.
sucks.
Look, that's a human being. That's a human life.
Yes,
You don't know how they were going to
war
end up.
bad. War bad. War sucks.
War's
War cringe.
horrible. That's the thing. You guys are
Yes,
so
I get
fucking
it. I get
flippant
it. I
about
get
this
it.
shit.
I get it. Yeah, war.
I don't know that you do.
I get it. But that's like... So that's why, if there's a war going on, then it's important to know who's responsible for the deaths, because those deaths are happening, and it's important to know who is on the bad side of history and who's not on the bad side of history. Like, rape is bad, but it's important to know who's the rapist and who's the rape victim. Right?
Have you ever heard the term propaganda of the deed?
Is that a D's nuts joke?
No. It actually
Okay,
is a
good.
real term. No, I'm sorry. If I was gonna pull one of those on you, well, I'll do it later, and you won't catch it, but it's a good one. Anyway, no, propaganda of the deed is an idea that I think was originally codified by Emma Goldman, anarchist labor activist way back in the day, and some of her cohorts to describe specific acts and forms of direct action that are sometimes violent, sometimes towards people, sometimes towards property, that are sometimes non-violent and involve other forms of action. But the whole point is that you do something that is inignorable. And the other big thing that is talked about in works that discuss propaganda of the deed is the optics, right? So when you do something like an assassination, that was one of the earliest advocates, like that was one of the earliest sets of propaganda of the deed advocacies, was the idea of targeted assassination. But it is no longer one of the things that people who advocate for propaganda of the deed advocate for, because we've just seen time and time again how it often has the opposite of the intended effect, and how negatively it tends to paint whoever ends up being associated with the killing. And I feel the same way, and a lot of other people who talk about the same thing, the idea of trying to do these big, showy, powerful things that actually make a difference, whether you're fighting a foreign enemy in a war zone, or whether you're trying to achieve a workers' revolution stateside. There are things you can do that make a big difference and get a lot of people talking, and that can either look good or it can look really, really, really bad. Ukraine blowing up a ton of airfields all over Russia, where there's minimum civilian casualties and they're like accidental deaths. That is propaganda of the deed one can get behind. Deaths are accidental, war is hell, you're right. But when you
Yeah, that's what
target
happened.
a piece, but when you specifically target a piece of civilian infrastructure at a time when people are actively using it, you are actively choosing to do something that is going to lead to more civilian casualties. They had a lock on that gas station. They could have waited till nightfall. They could have waited until everybody was gone and it was just like a couple of employees. And then, okay, whatever, maybe you've got an argument for acceptable losses at that point. But when
No,
you
then
just
you'd be
choose to
making the
obliterate
exact
half a
same point
city
for the
block of
employees.
people,
Then you'd be making the exact same argument for the 2 employees in the gas station. I'm sorry.
By the way, like, while you were
explaining propaganda of the deed, while you were explaining propaganda of the D and giving like a really salient point and everything, and I was like following along perfectly, and then I like glance on my second monitor and I see YouTube bitch in the saying Phoebe is dumb, and I'm like, wow, amazing. Like, I don't know how you do live streaming.
You know what? Honestly, a lot of the time I just end up ignoring the chat, but when I do
Okay.
respond to them, I'm able to get, I mean, like, that's the thing, when I'm having a regular conversation with someone, I respond to the chat quite a bit when that's like the main thing that I'm doing in the stream. But when I do respond to them, though, I always make sure to try and make something witty and a good quip out of it so that it's at least clippable, you know?
Yes.
But
Shout out to YouTube bitch.
yeah, shout out to YouTube bitch. Sweet.
Yes.
Um,
Anyways, no, I think that this
you think I'd be
argument
making the
that you are
same argument for
making,
the
that
two gas
they
station
should,
employees?
yes, at night, yes, you would have made the same argument, and other, maybe not you, but somebody else on like the the weird like internet lefty space that apparently like thinks that bombing a gas station is horrible if a wartime economy dictatorship seizes that gas station service to supply the invasion, is like, that point will be like, that's a thing that will happen. Like, when you
They
bomb this
didn't
gas
seize the
station.
gas station. It's a fucking gas station. It's got to sell gas to the people who buy gas from it.
Yeah, and if the regime's troops drive past, they don't choose to engage in business with those people. They are fucking forced. And that's why it's not just strictly civilian infrastructure.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's test your logic. You've ran my logic through a little speed test. Now let's run your logic through a little speed test, a little stress test, okay? Let's just say the Russian army decides that it is advantageous, due to the moral and ethical stances of the West, to start putting their forward operating bases in hospitals. Let's just say they start doing this in areas that are currently like disputed territory between Russia and Ukraine that should be Ukrainian territory, and they decide to start housing their FOBs in hospitals, some of which are still actively servicing patients. Should that hospital be bombed?
Wait, are you meaning that if they basically pimp out a hospital to have fucking rockets pointed at Kiev out of every window of the hospital, it would be illegitimate to bomb that hospital?
No, a forward operating base is is a pretty damned far sight from missiles pointing out of every window.
No, but it's seizing civilian infrastructure and turning it into military infrastructure. That makes it a legitimate military target if you are defending yourself from a fucking invasion, from an illegal fucking
No, it
invasion.
does not. No, it does not. It doesn't
should.
when Israel does it, and it doesn't when the U.S., Ukraine,
No,
Russia, or
because the
anybody else
difference is
does it.
when Israel does it, they are doing it against a fringe group within a broader territory and not against the government of the country that is
Yeah, but
seizing
that's what I'm
civilian assets
saying
and
is
turning it
the
into
average
military assets.
civilian, you don't seem to understand. And this is why I think that so many people that are on your side of this conflict, that feel the way that you do, because I'm on your same side. I feel like in spirit on some level, but that feel particularly like you do. I feel like there's a
I know what you're gonna say.
dehumanization thing going on, where like
Yes.
Russians are just intrinsically incapable of feeling love and empathy, and they're all just deranged
Yes, I know
lunatics
you're
that
gonna say
automatically
that,
support their government. That's not the
it's a
fucking
ridiculous thing to
case.
say.
That's not the
Yeah,
fucking
because
case. It
nobody
is not
thinks
a
that.
ridiculous thing to say.
Nobody thinks that. It's a
Well,
ridiculous
you're
thing to
acting
say.
like it when you say
There's
things
no
like
way
it's all
you can
right to bomb.
genuinely think. There's no way you can genuinely think that anyone believes that every Russian is like an Urukai. I'm sorry, but that's
It
just ridiculous.
seems like it when you say that it's fine to kill their civilians if it's also in furtherance of depriving the Russian military of an asset. It sure seems that way because you're using the same logic that
No,
Israel
because
and America have. Just let me finish real quick. I promise it won't take long. You're using the same logic that Israel uses or America has used in the past whenever we want to justify targeting some massive piece of civilian infrastructure. We've done it a ton. Fuck Israel. We've done it a ton throughout this Iran conflict. We bombed a fucking school because old data was telling us that it was an active part of the base that was being used to store munitions and shit. It wasn't. It was a girls' school. We killed
yes,
like
I know.
119 people in that
Yeah,
for no good reason other than bad intel and the same type of fucking shoddy excuse making you're making right now. Well, whatever. It's civilian infrastructure on some level, but it was located inside a base and it
it's
certainly
not
did hurt the Iranians. How do you not
it's not
see?
civilian infrastructure anymore if a dictatorship seizes it. That's not what's happening with Hamas in Gaza. It's like it's like not
Okay,
apples
it
and
kind of is
oranges. It's
though. It
like
kind of is though. It kind of is
apples and
though.
fucking. No,
It
it's
kind of
not.
is though. Yeah, no, it is in Gaza. Not across all of Palestine, but in Gaza, like specifically, Hamas is kind of like the de facto like government there. It's not like I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying it should be, and it's actually due to a lot of Israeli fucking meddling in Palestinian politics and Gazan politics that it even became that way. For a long time, Palestinians were actually trying to vote for like a socialist, basically, for a
I'm
long
sorry.
ass
So
time.
was Ukraine bombing the oil fields also bad and the refineries also bad and like
I think it depends on what time they did it and how they coordinated the attack.
I can
That's what
guarantee you
like you
that there
you
were
see how these
civilians
things matter,
somewhere
right?
there.
You
Like
see how
I'm
these things
sorry,
matter, right?
like the whole concept of like collateral is has been turned into such a meme by Hollywood, but it's true. You can't like war fucking sucks, and there's gonna be civilians dying in a war. I'm sorry, that's just the case.
So war
Like
is
I'm sorry.
hell.
Yes, of course it is. Like yeah, war never changes. What was that fucking
Halo.
was it Halo? I thought it was Fallout, but I
I
don't know.
think it's
But
it maybe it is Fallout. I don't remember.
like I'm sorry, like that's like saying that they can't bomb shit inside of Russia because some civilians will get hurt is just like not realistic.
I got a quote for you real quick whenever it loads.
Because like I feel like according to your argument, the only way Ukraine can like defend itself is like only shooting at like soldiers who are like actively screaming and running at them and like trying to like kill their puppies and like no, that's like if that was the case, then war wouldn't be hell, then war would be like I don't know, rich people chess or something.
I mean, war is rich people chess.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's like literally what it
I
is.
I stared too deep into the abyss of lefty memes and accidentally made a base take. I'm sorry.
I'm reminded of the quote from The Hateful Eight when Sheriff Chris Mannix says, "Oh, so you go chalking it up to war is hell, huh? Well, admittedly, that is a hard argument to argue with." Um, then goes on to bring up how, you know, evidently by what happened and the character he's talking to and their experience in the film, basically, or their backstory at least, it didn't turn out all too well for them when they committed war crimes either. So it's just like, I feel like people like to use this justification anytime some war crimes happen that they feel like they have to kind of get behind. When really it would be so easy for you to say, like it would be literally so easy for you to say, it was wrong of Ukraine to do that. They should have waited until people weren't there, which probably would have happened sometime at night. I don't know. It's not like these missiles need flashlights to fucking to be aimed. You know, like they're not. That's not how they work.
But I feel like
You know.
I feel like condemning Ukraine for that attack is so insanely disproportionate that it's like it's like you have to be
It's not
blind
disproportionate. It's morally
in
consistent.
in the context of the ridiculous atrocities that have been committed in this conflict in, like, I don't know, the past 2 weeks alone. Okay, like spending a single breath condemning this fucking gas station attack is crazy. It's crazy. It's like being against violence. So like I'm gonna like not only will like rapists be sentenced to life in prison, but it's also very, very important that if the victim kicked the guy in the shin, that they also get a $50 fine.
Once again, we're talking about
It's crazy. Yes, I
like
know we're talking about civilians dying, and it's bad. Yes, war sucks. L war, cringe war.
so easy, isn't it? Isn't it so easy to just wipe your hands of the horrors of a conflict when you have like convenient justifications for why it's okay?
No, I think it's much more problematic to it's much more problematic to reduce a conflict like that to it's terrible when people die, because yes, obviously it's terrible when people die, but it's like people dying in the American Civil War was also terrible. Like German citizens dying when Germany was bombed during World War II was also terrible. But it's just like, but saying that that made those acts terrible, like that, like saying that like the Allies bombing Dresden in World War II was so horrible and like so evil and so
Oh
many
my God,
civilians
no
died,
way.
is
Oh
that
my
like
God, I said this.
that's a Nazi talking point. Like that's what German Nazis do. Like actually, like World War
Oh
II was
my God,
bad,
you
yeah,
did
yeah,
not
but
just say
actually
that.
people in Dresden.
You did not just say that. You're really. Oh my God, I said that as a joke the other day on stream, but you're really gonna say that it's that like there no war crime committed there. That's your stance on the carpet bombing of
No,
Dresden?
no, I'm saying that when discussing World War II, then condemning the carpet bombing of Dresden is like on the list of priorities that words should be wasted on. It's like on priority 500, and that's as a German speaking. Like
Well, I just feel like you can
like
have a
because
nuanced condemnation of the bombing of
what
Dresden.
that's what genuine Nazis in Germany also do. They say like, yeah, Germany totally like did some things, you know, but did you hear about what happened in Dresden? Like holy fuck, like maybe they like wow, like that was so evil, like how dare they. And like in the scale of World War II, talking about like
Okay,
no,
listen, I feel like I need to make a
it's just
clarification
insane.
here.
It's just insane.
I need to make a clarification here. I'm not saying I feel like there's like a profound difference in the type of like complete um uncritical condemnation that a neo-Nazi might have of the bombing of Dresden and the sort of like critical nuanced critique that I have of that particular strategy. I think that the fact that we were able to carpet bomb Dresden proved that we had enough planes to like do a bunch of targeted attacks because like we had some of the most accurate bombers in the world back then. We had and the fact that we could carpet bomb a fucking city proves that we could have like chosen to undergo basically like a 2 week long campaign of just destroying every munitions factory in Germany
That's
and
insanely
anything that even looks like it's a
oversimplified.
munitions factory in Germany. And then
That
at the
is
very least,
insanely oversimplified.
no, it's not really. No.
It low-key is, yeah.
No, it's really not. My people chose to be particularly depraved in order to send a message. And I'm not saying I necessarily disagree with that decision. I don't know that they felt like they had a lot of other choice. I just feel like they did. I just feel like they did. They had the technology. It was just like a risk-benefit analysis, and the decision was made, instead of
I
doing a
feel
targeted campaign where we'll have to do more, close-in air support runs and stuff like that in order to get close to these factories, and then we're going to have to do that. They was decided that it would probably lead to less casualties on our side and send a greater message if we just carpet bombed the fuck out of an advanced German city that had been untouched up to that point.
yeah, but I feel like talking about that without like without like also allotting like 5 times the time to putting it in context that it's like not comparable to the things that the Nazis did to the rest of the
Obviously,
world.
nobody said
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
was.
no. But big but. I like big butts and I cannot lie. Okay, there's
Okay.
the thing is that it's that without doing that, it's really, really impossible to make that point without giving the vibe of equivocating. So it's for me, it's like the tough thing is about the Russian gas station is that it's basically you have to be spending like 10 seconds describing the Russian gas station attack, followed by 10 minutes of saying how that is in no way comparable to what Russia did, because otherwise it gives the vibe of equivocating. They did a war crime, but they also did a war crime, and that's just bullshit, because the scale
I
we
don't
are
agree with this
talking
framing.
about, the
I don't
scale
agree
we
with
are
this
talking
framing.
about is insane.
I think that in the context of a nuanced conversation among like-minded peers with similar levels of information as to the nature of the conflict, you can say something like, yeah, this was fucked up. I don't know why they did this. This doesn't seem like it was the best way to go about this. If this needed to happen, it seems like this was not the best way to do it. Seems like there could have been a better option.
No.
I think it is perfectly fine to
If
do
I
that. In
enter
fact, I
your
think it's
house,
important to do so.
if I enter your house and fuck your dog and you punch me in the face, like if later
What
in
kind
the
of
history
fucked up
books,
example is that?
in the history books, you are going to be the person who said, man, but like that guy just like that guy, I mean, of course, yeah, he was fucking the dog and everything, but that lady punched him in the fucking face. She could have, like, he could have gone unconscious and landed with like his head on the corner of the table and fucking died. Like, she punched him in the, yeah, but
Once
of course
again,
the raping
once
the dog
again,
and like breaking an entry was kind of bad, but holy fuck, that lady punched that
for
motherfucker
this
in the
for
face.
this
That's the gas
example,
station. That's the
for
gas
this
station
example,
discourse.
for
That's the Russian gas station discourse, in my opinion.
no, it is not. No, it is not. For this example to hold up, you have to once again equivocate between the Russian people and the Russian government and military. You have to um, basically make some broad generalist association, because when you're punching the dog rapist in the face, right? Like, okay, if you're targeting specifically the Russian military, I would say you're punching the dog rapist in the face. But if you if you did that and then I punched you in the face and then you uh I got arrested, I guess, and then I went and like shot up a grocery store or some crazy shit like that, I would never do anything like that. Never YouTube satire,
I disavow.
something, like
I
I'm just
disavow.
saying, like if something like that ever happened, right? I would never do anything like that. I'm just saying, like, but oh man, I hope I don't lose my channel. Oh, I shouldn't have said it like that. Oh my god. Anyway, um,
Been
point
nice knowing you.
is, point is, if I were to then go do some big act of violence or something like that,
In Minecraft.
that would not be justified. If I were to just go murder a bunch of uninvolved people, because a dog rapist broke into my house. That would not be a proportional response.
Okay, but if the Trump administration passed the "We Can All Kick Phoebe's Dog" act, okay, and then designated the gas station next to you, saying, hey, this gas station will now be recruited by the Trump administration to fuel buses full of people who want to kick Phoebe's dog. Like, if you went into the gas station and punched the gas station attendee in the face.
Heard.
No,
this
because
is no different. This is no different than the people who support the death penalty that are like, well, what if somebody killed your mom? It's like, okay, yeah, I'd be an emotionally compromised fuck that probably shouldn't be on the jury.
I told you, if my mom was at that gas station, I would not be crying about a Ukrainian war crime that killed my mom. I'd be crying about a Russian war that killed my mom.
That's absurd. I didn't even catch that you said that earlier. What? That's depraved.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Your mom is worth more than any state or nation building project or war out there.
Yes, but I'd be fucking sad, but I wouldn't be talking about the Ukrainian war crime that killed my mom. I'd be talking about the Russian war that killed my mom. Because
you don't think it'd ever come up. You don't think that changed your opinion, not just one little bit.
This whole entire war is just rolling because Russia is run by psychopaths.
Well, at least you didn't admit that. At least you pivoted.
No, I don't want to pivot. No. It wouldn't change my opinion one bit. I don't pivot. No. It wouldn't change my opinion one bit. If my mom, my dad, and both of my cats were in that gas station.
I think better of you. I think better of you, Dan. I think better of you than that.
What the fuck? Do you really think
I think better of you than that.
Do you really think that while mourning the people who died there, we should be condemning the Ukrainians more than the Russians who started the war?
I'm saying that it is morally righteous to have a critical, nuanced take on what was unequivocally a war crime, and to recognize that there was a better way that it could have been done that would have reduced civilian casualties.
It's a fucking war. There's a better way. Every single thing could have been done, bro.
Hold on.
I'm sorry, I mean, ma'am, not bro. I'm just broing.
No, you're fine. I don't care about that shit. I know it's colloquial. I didn't think you were misgendering me. You're cool. I'm a stoner, so I don't like. You would have to be like hemming me for me to feel like you were actually trying to be a dickhead. But anyway, my second point was just like those are people over there that died. It was unequivocally a war crime. It could have been done better, and it is morally righteous to call it out whenever somebody brings it up and point out that, yeah, like the Ukrainians have a right to self-defense, but I don't know about this, Chief. You might want to just like keep targeting the airfields and stuff, man.
It's impossible to talk about that in the way that you are talking about it without.
No, it is clearly not, because I've been talking about it for months. I've been talking about it since I've had a channel whenever the topic comes up.
Yeah, and it gives
the clearly not impossible to talk about it like that.
It gives the vibe of equivocation every single time you do that.
It shouldn't, because I'm the girl who says we need to roll tanks on fucking Russia. You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah. Like
my stance should be clear on this.
Do you really think that in the nuclear Armageddon that would follow American tanks rolling on Moscow?
We're back to fucking nuclear.
Do you really think that less civilians would die in whatever happens after American tanks roll up on Moscow? Do you think
Fallout has
would die than in that gas station attack?
Huh? Fallout has infected your brain. Nuclear annihilation ain't coming. I don't even think that we would have to actually roll tanks into Russia's border. I think that the show of force, if we coordinated it properly, would be enough for us to achieve our goals
probably without more than a single skirmish. I would be surprised if there's more than one or like maybe three, but it would not take much for like the Russian army to get the idea that all right, this Ukraine project ain't gonna work out, and if we stop it there and we keep that border protected for long enough for Ukraine to join NATO, then hot diddly damn, now they're protected by Article 5. No more civilian deaths on either side. Yay!
That is insane. What do you think the American reaction would be if an American soldier in Ukraine got killed by a Russian Shahed drone? Like
I
that,
think
like
that
that, like whatever political party would be holding the White House at that point would never hold it again. Like,
I don't know that I agree. Support for the Russian conflict has, I mean, I guess it's waxed and waned, but I feel like most people are in support of Ukraine. Give me 1 second. I need to run inside and grab a charger, if that's okay, because my phone's about to
yeah,
die and I don't want it to
yeah.
die before we finish up.
So, chat, do we really think that American soldiers killing Russian soldiers in Ukraine wouldn't lead to World War III? Like, that's kind of the part I'm hung up on the most. Based ice cold coffee. No, yeah, YouTube bitch. I'm not trying to like win a debate here. You know, I'm not into that debate bro culture thing. I'm just somebody who has somebody close to me who is a Ukrainian who was very, very deeply personally impacted by that war. And I'm just trying to like gauge what the fuck Phoebe and people like, I don't know, like Paul Zigo, etc. And that's the bunch of other lefties in insert name here, like actually think when they say that yeah, war bad, so stop sending weapons because military industrial complex bad and money, and yeah, I think it's like ridiculously oversimplified. There's a cat. Who saw the cat? Guys, shut up about the fucking global politics war thing. There was a kitten on stream, and now it's not there anymore. I'm fucking mad. Where's the cat? Phoebe didn't tell me she had a cat. I feel betrayed. I've been denied cat footage for hours. 2 hours now. Kitty is camera shy. Well, that's what people's hands are for. Is that you grab the kitty and you hold it in front of the camera. Like, I don't know if you've been on the internet for long, but that's the way kittens and cameras work. Is you take kitten and you hold kitten in front of camera, and everyone gets like, endorphins. Oh fuck, bro. You've reached the deepest, darkest hell of internet rabbit holes when there's somebody in chat saying they don't like cats. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro? Get out of here. You're banned. Banned. Mods.
Okay. Let me at him. Alrighty. Everybody. Sorry about my absence.
There was a cat on screen that more than made up for your absence.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah.
She
I
is
didn't know you had a cat.
Ease. I'm actually more of a cat person than a dog person. Believe it or not.
Same.
Hell yeah. Well, I've come back fully equipped. So I feel like we keep getting caught up in this threat of nuclear hellfire that I don't actually believe is coming, and I think that if it
So,
is inevitable, if we make any significant progress, then we just need to go ahead and fucking trip the switch and see what happens.
so you think that an American soldier being killed by a Russian Shahed drone in Ukraine on Ukrainian soil wouldn't like be kind of Cuban Missile Crisis times 100?
No, not really. Because I think most people in America have been kind of expecting something like this for so long that it wouldn't, like, especially in the era of Trump, I don't think anything would surprise anybody anymore.
So, like, Americans and Russians shooting each other
Do
would
you really think it
be.
would be on the same level of public concern? There'd be
Um,
people concerned about it, but there are people concerned about all kinds of things they ain't never gonna get no progress on,
I'm sorry, but do you really currently disagree that Russians and Americans shooting each other would be a very, very bad idea if we want to avoid World War III and complete nuclear
Why?
annihilation
Why?
of every major
Why?
city in the world?
Why? Why would it be?
Because that's the
Because
whole
Russia
entire
crazy?
thing.
Because Russia crazy, right?
No, I think if Russia sent Russian troops to fight Americans in Cuba, it would be the same thing in reverse. Because because people with red buttons that end the world, we don't want to test their crazy, right?
We don't, but at the same time, like, all of those systems are reliant on somebody at the endpoint stage that has to make that decision, and I like to think that the systems we have in place would withstand such an irrational decision. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Yes, I
I
think
also
you
feel
are.
like I also feel like you're not really presenting like at least I've got a couple of different avenues we could go down. I feel like you still have yet to present a solution that guarantees Ukraine's sovereignty and that they end up winning this conflict
Yeah,
and
that would be
doesn't.
like octo quintupling the aid we send there.
What kind of aid? Like, when you say octo quadrupling, like, we can send millions more bullets, but is that really gonna help? Like, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about, and that's exactly what my Ukrainian homie told me. And like, he's not just like a random Ukraine. Like, he has the personal contacts of like three fucking like colonels in general. Like, he knows that shit. Like, he's been in
I got you.
rooms with shit. Like, he's not like Zelensky's left nut or something, but he is like he knows what he's talking about. I mean,
I'm
that
not
what
hearing an
he told
answer,
me,
and that's
what
not
he
making me feel
told,
very
what
confident.
he told me is that the only thing that is keeping this war going is that the aid is coming so slowly. That's like the big thing. That's because like the current flow of aid is already enough to push back major, like to have major pushbacks on the front lines, to have like to keep like the world's like second or third biggest military at bay. And like, if that shit was increased, like, as I would say should be increased massively, then that would instantly like tip the scale. That's what like my dude told me, and that's what I also am pretty convinced of, because like the Russian military really isn't all that impressive, except for the fact that they have like 9,000 nukes and nuclear submarines currently pointed at like Nancy Pelosi's nipples, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree that that's the propaganda that comes out of Russia and America as to the matter, but I don't know if that actually reflects any kind of genuine truth.
Yeah, I'm telling you that that's what a person who's been on the ground there and talking to
Yeah,
people
but they
who
ain't
have
seen the fucking nuke
significant
sites.
ranked.
They
No, but they no. I thought you meant the like the whole ground thing, that it
no, I'm
would be
talking
a
about like when
significant
here's the
W
thing.
to increase
Russia
aid.
talks about having thousands of nukes. And the United
And they
States
do,
also talks about them having thousands of nukes.
and they
And
also
maybe
do.
they do. But who's to say that that whole arsenal is fucking operational?
Who's to say we want to find out?
All
Who's
what
to
I'm
say we
saying
want
is
to
that I feel
test
like
it?
they use this
What?
super high they use this super high elevated, well, because I'm not saying we want to test it, but certainly if we're going to test it, this is the kind of math you might want to consider in the beforehand, right? Right? Is it not the kind of math you would want to consider? Okay, so
No, but that
what
math has
if
already
what if
math
they've
has
only got
already
like
been mathed.
300? What if the only actual reliable nuclear weapons they have are on their fucking submarines, and most of their siloed fleet is just basically duds at this point? Because, like, that's the thing. Russia has been in economic turmoil since, like, well, basically since Stalin shot the anarchists, basically. And it has never really gotten any better. There's been better times and worse times. But from my
I mean,
understanding,
Russia has been like top one, top two exporter of gas and pumping significant amounts of that money into their war chest and their nuclear preparedness. So I don't think we want to test whether or not all of their silos are operational or not. Like, I think that is not a conversation we want to have. And you said that
you sound like
we should.
Richard Pipes.
Is that a These Nuts jokes?
No,
Okay,
although
but
I could
anyway,
make it
like,
into one.
yeah, I thought you would, but no, but that math has already been mathed, and it's been done so since the beginning of the Cold War, and that math is, and the equation of that math, okay, the E equals MC squared of the math of whether or not we want to fuck with people's nuclear silos, the like, yeah,
Yeah, I'm
the
listening.
equation, okay, the equation
I'm hearing
resolves
it.
to nuclear mutual assured destruction. That's like
No, it does
the
not.
result.
You
That's the
sound like
result.
Richard Pipes. Oh. You sound like okay. So Richard Pipes was this dude that the CIA brought on in the 1980s, I believe, in the early 1980s or the late 70s. I forget which time period
Did he
exactly.
say that we shouldn't go into World War III because then we'd all blow up? If
What he
so, then
said
please, then
was
call me
that
Richard Pipes all day.
Russia has what his whole line, his entire life after he survived the Holocaust, which good on him for surviving that. That is honestly genuinely cool. I'm glad
Yeah.
he did. I wouldn't have wanted him to
Yeah,
go
it's like
some other way.
20th century like American ninja warrior, but like on extreme difficulty. Yeah, he
Literally, yeah.
survived.
So,
Yeah,
big
good
ups
shit,
to him
good
for
shit.
surviving that.
Yeah,
No,
cheers.
yeah, no shade for that. But after he came to America, he kind of like because he was already a prolific writer and because he had specific experience with both prosecution or persecution under Nazi Germany and
Prostitution.
prostitution. I know, right? Yeah,
I
he was getting
mean,
whored out by all them damn Nazis. No,
yeah, he was young and needed the money, bro. I don't know.
exactly. $20, 20 Reichsmarks is 20 Reichsmarks, right?
Sure.
Anyway, point is, he was getting whored out by the Nazis, and then he got whored out by the Russians. But
Yeah.
I'm kidding. He escaped persecution from the Nazis, only to basically flee directly into persecution by the Russians, and ended up kind of fleeing to America, where he was
Yeah.
finally able to find a life as a writer about A, the Holocaust, and B, the Soviet Union and their like constant interference in their supposed constant interference in worldly affairs. And he wrote all kinds of different books about it. And one of the ideas that he popularized during this project called Team B, that was commissioned by the newly minted head of the CIA under Richard Nixon, I believe. He promulgated this idea that the reason why Russia doesn't seem to have the super fully operational wonder systems that we kind of expect them to have and that our politicians really want them to have is because they've got insane shit that we just don't know about. The most famous example, one of the most famous examples, was that we could not figure out any sort of like modern acoustic radar system that Russia's submarines could be using. And so what Team B proposed was that instead, Russia had developed a non-acoustic means of sensing where our submarines are and of guarding their own submarines from terrain intrusion. And this was completely fabricated. There was no basis of this other than, well, we don't think that they're not doing it the way we think they're doing it, so they must be doing it some other way. And whenever somebody wants to talk to me about Russia's massive and expanding nuclear stockpile with all these modern ICBMs, I'm just like, that does not vibe with what I know about the Russian economy or Russian tendencies towards the maintenance of their own equipment.
Okay,
Are you still
so
there?
basically what you're saying is we should be testing Vladimir Putin's crazy because he probably doesn't have a lot of nukes. Does that sum it up in good faith?
Give it to me one more time because the train was coming by. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that we should be testing whether or not Putin is crazy enough to press the red button because he probably doesn't have a lot of nukes.
I am not necessarily saying that because I don't believe that it would be testing the red button. All I'm saying is that I don't believe that the threat is as high as it's made out to be. I think that Russia and America both have every incentive to inflate the perception that each country's civilians have of, each country's relative success and shit. And like we have an incentive for everybody to think that Russia's got tons of nukes so that we can continue all of our little proxy wars against them, some of which are more justified, some of which are less.
Wait, do you think that?
And
Do you
Russia's
think
got an
that?
incentive to preserve that perception as well, so that everybody thinks they're big and bad and scary and can just end the world if they want to.
Wait, but
There are perverse
wouldn't it
incentives
be
at
way
work
better?
here.
Wouldn't it be way better for America than to just like take Russia out now and like claim all their gas fields? Like what the fuck?
That's I mean, once again, I'm the girl who says we should roll tanks on Russia.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if what you're describing is true, that America and Russia don't have as much nuclear weaponry as they claim, because that way they can keep doing proxy wars and making military-industrial complex money? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's part of the reason why. It's
I
also
feel-
just like a general deterrent. It's like if you can artificially inflate your nuke numbers in the minds of not
But it
just your
doesn't
own
matter whether
people,
they're
but the people of
artificially
other
inflated.
countries.
If Russia only has 1,000 nukes instead of 8,000, then the world still ends.
No, we can shoot down 1,000 nukes. That's the whole
If we
thing. That's
shoot
why
down
the math.
990 of them, then that's like 50 million dead people. If we shoot
Yeah, which is
990
a
out
whole
of
lot
1,000.
different than billions of dead people.
Yeah, but that's, oh my fucking god. Oh no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know
You
what to say to
understand that, like, less death better than more death, right? I feel like that's something we keep running into here. First with the gas station, now with the nukes.
I don't understand. Do you really believe that Russia and America don't have enough nukes to kill billions and
America
billions
might.
of fucking
America
people?
might.
Okay,
America's
but
got
Russia
a different
doesn't.
fucking.
Okay,
Yeah,
but,
no, I don't think Russia probably does. I think that Russia's got a bunch of old, shitty old equipment, some of which they've probably been maintaining, and some of which they probably haven't. I wouldn't be surprised if the most functional part of their, like, missile barrage and everything was mounted on their, like, nuclear subs.
But you don't think that just that if Russia only has 1,000 nukes instead of 8,000, would it be a good idea to like push them into a scenario where they want to launch those?
I think that the argument keeps being made that the scenarios that would push Russia into that are so many and varied that I don't even know if it's something worth accounting for, because, like, at what point do we call their bluff? Like, okay, if Russia, let's just say this. Like, let's just say Russia decides to use its nukes to basically hold the rest of the world hostage, and just, like, sends a letter to every head of state in every country being like, Russia now owns the world, and if you don't like it and you try to challenge us, then we are just going to nuke everything, and humanity will be over.
I feel like in that case you'd be advocating for joint custody of the entire world between Russia and everyone else, like you are with the Donbass.
No, at that point I would be, like, obviously advocating for, like, a mass coordinated movement across the whole world to, like, eliminate Russia as a military power.
Yeah, but that would be, again, Russia putting the rest of the world in a scenario where mutually assured destruction is the preferable outcome. And that's just not the case in the Ukraine conflict. Unless we have fucking American soldiers shooting Russian soldiers on Ukrainian soil and somehow not provoking World War III. That's insane.
We're too afraid of this damn World War III shit. Sick of it. Bring it on, motherfuckers. Bring it on.
I mean, yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, sure, you can have that opinion, and it's like cool enough. But in terms of talking about pragmatically what would be the worst outcome, I feel like testing whether or not Russia has 1,000 or 8,000 nukes by pushing Putin to press the red button because we have fucking NATO troops shooting at Russian troops.
Who's to say that he won't push the button because he sees too many fucking M1 tanks pressed in the hillside? He's a crazy piece of shit.
Because he also
You're
doesn't
acting
want to
like,
get annihilated.
why? Whoa, hold on. I just noticed a giant hypocrisy in your argument that makes no goddamn sense. And maybe you can walk me through it and maybe you can reconcile this, okay?
Shoot.
How is it that on the one hand, Putin is fundamentally unstable and narcissistic as hell and wants what he wants and is unwavering and just this like crazy fuck, but he's also got like this rigid standard code that he can be trusted to adhere to, and if we just play along with that, then everything will work out?
Oh, that's pretty simple to explain. That's pretty simple to explain. Dangerous
What, honor among thieves?
No. Dangerous psychopathic dictators don't like exploding themselves. That's like one sentence explanation, right? Just
Hence
because
why
he's
I
insane and
don't think he
unhinged.
would launch the nukes.
If he has fucking Russian tanks rolling at his border.
You mean American tanks?
American, German, yeah, basically everything except Russian tanks, yeah. If he has fucking NATO rolling through Ukraine, shooting at his troops, going towards his border, then yeah, he might see that as kind of a provocation that hasn't existed before, yes.
Well, I tell you this much before I hit this bull. At least I know that, when we are huddling together in the last surviving eco-village in North America, shivering next to a campfire, barely surviving the nuclear winter brought on by complete nuclear annihilation in this conflict, I hope we'll be able to sit united and say, this was worth it for the freedom of the Ukrainian people, don't you think?
No, I don't think we're gonna. I don't think that.
Yeah, you're so to see how absurd this is, right?
Say. No, I think we're gonna say that. Well, good thing we sent NATO troops there instead of just supplying the Ukrainian troops. Yes, I think that's what we're gonna say.
What if that's what ends up fucking putting it off?
What?
Like, what's? I'm just saying, like, dude.
That's not what's gonna end up putting it off.
Yeah, insane. Why? Because Putin is a reasonable person who can be trusted to maintain his own standards reliably?
No, because Putin is gonna see.
You realize how absurd that sounds, right?
Americans eating Subway sandwiches and like Big King XXL Burger King burgers in the hatches of tanks rolling up to his border. That's the difference. Like,
and you know what? In that moment,
at that point, he's like, okay, fuck him.
At that moment, he will have a revelation. He will
say, maybe give peace a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Not only will he start singing "Give Peace a Chance," but he will convert to Southern Baptism and start waving an American flag, and there will be a contract signed with McDonald's later that night.
Quite possibly, yeah. Maybe he'll I don't know. Like,
I mean, I can throw anything out there. The idea that any of my fucked up, crazy leftist ideas are going to be taken up by this fucking retarded government or about as likely as pigs flying or any of this shit we're talking about happening. So
I mean, yeah, obviously, but I feel like we can at least agree on that increasing aid to Ukraine would be based, right?
Yeah, I just think that it needs to be a wider, varied kind of aid, and I honestly do think that it would be like we can agree that on that, I'm fine with that. If it is enough of a step up in aid to where you can actually see the changes happening and see how much more progress is being made, especially, then hell yeah.
And
But I
especially
personally,
see Russian resources like dwindling away because they only have finite amount of resources, and they have less resources in a war of attrition than all of NATO combined.
sure, but you know,
Good, excellent.
um,
Based W.
but
WCD.
like still, it's still like a. I feel like it's still a point of contention between us that I don't think landing American troops there would escalate the conflict to the point of nuclear warfare. I just think it would
Yeah, but I think we're
basically,
just gonna have
you
to
know,
agree to disagree on that, because I know for a fact that you could preach that to me for the next 10 hours and I wouldn't agree with you. So like I don't think it's really, like, I think we're just gonna agree to disagree that that sending NATO troops to Ukraine to kill Russians wouldn't spark World War III. I think that's for like the viewer to decide.
I suppose that is for the viewer to
like
decide
like
because
like epic
you
rap
know,
battles of history,
right,
who won,
right,
who lost, who's next, like that kind
exactly.
of shit. Yeah. So
I can agree with that.
have you been watching DFF since the DP days?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I personally, like, I started watching TJ in like 2009 or something, or 8 maybe. And but I never got into DP. I just didn't like all of the hosts and all of the shit they did. Like, I just I for some reason, like, I just couldn't get through like a whole episode of DP.
Wasn't
But
your
I
thing.
always like TJ's shit, and I also like Paul's shit. And when they basically splintered off into DFF, I was basically patron since month 1.
Oh yeah, I've been a patron off and on since like the first year they were doing their Patreon on Deep Fat Pride.
Yeah, but I was like, so like I was like never a DP fan, and never even like, I don't know if I've ever like watched a full episode of DP, to be honest. But
Oh, dude, that's so funny because for me, I I got into TJ probably around 2013 or 2014, I would say.
oh, that was like
And I
right before the anti-SJW grift arc.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was. Well, it was actually, if you look into it, the video that basically kind of started the anti-SJW era was actually made a lot earlier than a lot of people remember it being.
Oh
I
yeah,
believe it
yeah.
was made in 2013, and it was called "It's Only Sexist When Men Do It." It might even be older than
Yeah, I
that.
know, I know, I know. I've seen that video, but I mean, like, the whole that thing cascaded into this whole YouTube genre of what is today
Oh
basically
yeah, for sure.
droid
Yeah.
tube. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got into them around then, and then I got into Drunken Peasants when I got like my first job, and I needed something to listen to while I was pushing carts around the Walmart parking lot. And when I was, doing like dishwasher work after that, same thing. And I ended up having kind of the same thing. Like at first I didn't really get Ben, and I didn't really get Scotty. But as soon as I started interacting with Paul's content through Drunken Peasants, I was like, oh my God, holy crap. This guy really speaks to me. And so I started following his solo streams and stuff. At first, just kind of commenting casually every so often, and slowly became up, like more of a regular member over there. To the point eventually I was able to get mod, and we've had a few
Yeah.
conversations on my channel at this point and shit. And to me, it feels like a full circle moment because I kind of look at Paul as Paul and TJ both, and I sometimes lean a little bit closer to Paul when I think of who had a more profound influence over the kind of content that I do, what I like to do, how I like to do it. Um, I
Oh
definitely
yeah,
think that
like
there's some elements of my attitude and my perspective and maybe my presentation style
you're a
that
polisher.
are,
Don't deny it. You're a polisher.
huh?
You're a
Oh, I'm
polisher.
100% polisher. I'm
Yeah.
also kind of a Tajika fan though. I'm kind of split
No.
because
No, you're a
DJ is such a
polisher. You
cool
polish.
cat,
Yeah,
but
he
so is
is. Like, yeah,
Paul.
yeah.
I don't know, man.
No. Paul is
I
like
think I'm.
your Emperor Palpatine, and like TJ is like your like I don't know random senator somewhere who is also very cool.
I
Your
guess.
Grandma Tarkin is that's your
Yeah.
TJ, but yeah, your Emperor Palpatine is Paul. That's the vibe I've been getting over the conversation we've had. What's like your favorite DFF moments? Give me a top three.
Um.
Since you're like also a long time
Okay.
enjoyer.
I'll give you one. God damn it! You're such a fucking bitch lately, dude. Quit stifling me, motherfucker.
Yeah, that was pretty recent. Yeah, that was the Charlie Kirk thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're such a fucking bitch lately, dude. Oh my god, that whole crash out is some of the most entertaining shit ever, dude. Thank you for the 10 jewels. I appreciate that. But no, that whole fight was so entertaining from the standpoint of the audience. But then there's also the red dragon, blue dragon argument that was like interminable and happened over the course of a bantersode.
Mm.
Um, that led to some really hilarious DFF moments.
I have to say, for me,
Um,
the greatest moment is in the DFF from like it's I think from 2020. It's the scams episode, the emergency news flash of Amber Heard shitting on Johnny Depp's bed.
oh
They were in the
yeah,
middle of doing a topical DFF, and then I think Paul or somebody just interrupted the show, like someone like the president just died, like like fucking
that is
George Bush,
awesome.
like George
I
Bush
forget
hearing
about that
about the Twin
moment.
Towers. Yeah, yeah. And they had like a I don't know like 1 hour segment or something, just looking at Amber Heard's turd.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, I remember that, dude. Oh my god, that is a great DFF moment for sure. For
yeah.
sure, for sure. Let me think
But yeah,
here.
quit stifling me is also a good one.
Quit Stifling Me is of course like Hall of Fame level. Definitely. Oh, you know what? Another one. There's a fight that Paul and TJ had specifically that I think was also last year, maybe the year before last. I don't quite remember. But it was about like TJ was calling into question this Christian dude's schedule. It was like this Christian grifter pastor dude and his schedule and whether or not he was actually spending all that time the way he claimed to be. And Paul, for some reason, started taking it a little personally and ended up kind of like elucidating what were actually some kind of like problematic thoughts out of TJ, or at least I think that they were presented in a way that was not exactly graceful. Said something about like working people being stupid humps and how people that structure their lives according to strict schedules are just cuts to the system and all this other shit
Ah,
and
yeah,
getting
yeah, yeah.
all
I think I
serious
remember
about it and
that.
stuff.
I think I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
that was a
6
crazy one
21
too. It just
24, I think.
what?
I believe it was 6 21 24, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you actually have the date in your head?
I think so. Let me look it up.
That's good. Because that, yeah, I vaguely remember that just cascading into weirdly personal and weirdly heated, kind of like kind of unnecessarily like escalated fight. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to type. Uh, there we go.
Oh, different Dan in chat. Yeah, the Munchie guy. That one was also good. Yeah.
Um, let me see here.
Or did you see that that Paul has read every single philosophical treatise ever written?
You talking about
That
that
was a great
Destiny
meme.
shit?
Yeah, that was a great meme.
That was a great meme. I don't know why Paul said that. I don't know, like what, like I don't know, man. That was not, you know, it's not the tactic I would have pulled out. Let me just put it that way.
It was a choice, yeah. But like, I don't know.
It was a choice.
How's shit going in America?
It would be
Do you
going a
think?
lot better if I could find this fucking thing. And I don't think I can. I don't remember. But it was a good show. And that's the
Yeah.
important thing. God damn it, kitty.
I
Can you
mean, if you
quit
find it
messing
later,
with my
you
stuff?
can. If you find it later, I'd appreciate if you link it in like Discord.
Oh, yeah,
But
for sure. If
like
I
if the
do, I
like
will.
you don't have to like I'm not recruiting you to be my research slave. Just like if it pops into your mind, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've already got a research slave. It would be weird if I was someone else's research slave. I would
That
obviously
would
just
be weird.
outsource my own research
Okay.
slave.
Yeah, like the research centipede. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why would I lengthen the research centipede when I could just refer you to my own research slave?
Yeah. You know, like I don't know about America, but like Germany is kind of fucked because like we have fucking Nazi party leading the polls, and
The AFD and shit.
yeah, and they have like they're basically Russian operatives. That kind of sucks.
Oh
Like
boy.
there's been like linked Russian like intelligence communications saying that they have like full control over some AFD politicians in our national parliament. That's like
Gross.
yeah, but yeah, that's you know shit happens. You know, it's a
Still shouldn't
little
bomb their
Russia
gas
gate.
stations though.
It's a little Russia gatey. Like oh, I don't know. Like I think
Gotcha.
no, I think the whole military infrastructure in wartime economy thing, seizing assets, still kind of stands. Yeah, but I guess we're gonna like not look eye to eye on that one.
No, I don't think we're gonna see eye to eye on that one. Let me ask you this. Let me get some general ideas since you've asked me a few questions. And it's not about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. I just kind of want to see how you feel generally. How do you feel about like? Let me just ask you this. How would you describe yourself politically?
I'd say I'm like
Use whatever
pretty.
language you want.
Yeah, I'm like definitely more of like a social democratic liberal rather than something like a socialist commune shit. Like I think people like I don't know, like I think that people can have that we can make like insane progress without trying to seize the means of production, you know.
Um. Okay, that's interesting. So like, let me ask
I
you
think like
this.
there's a shit ton of progress to be made within the framework of like how the world works right now instead
Do you
of like
think?
going for
Um.
commie utopia.
Do you think? Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think utopia is really possible. I think utopias are thought experiments. Um. Like I'm an advocate against utopianism. I think that any human society and community, whether intentional or formed by natural causes, is only going to remain sustainable and successful long term if there is some natural level of challenge to their lives. Um, I don't think that means that people need to struggle endlessly and grind against the wheel, but I do think that it's good for like I go to rainbow gatherings, which are these weird hippie festivals out in the woods where there's no money and like your only currency is your labor and how fun you are to be around, basically. And how fun you are to be around runs out a lot quicker than your labor currency does. You dig one shitter and you're a fucking celebrity in that kitchen for the rest of the time you're there, you know? But being a
Okay.
cool person might last you 4 or 5 hours. Whereas, you dig a shitter, you're set for a week. Dig two shitters, you're set for the whole time you're there. Dig three shitters, and you'll be famous for it for the rest of the time you go to gatherings, and you'll always be asked to do it every time you go. Ask me how I know. Um, but
Mm-hmm.
like I've seen how that kind of thing can work, and I've also seen how good it actually is for a human life to be mostly chill, but for there to be a natural level of challenge and curiosity that can be stated and stuff like that. So I'm an advocate against utopianism because I don't think that you can achieve a perfect human society, but I also don't think you should want to because I think that such a society would eventually collapse under its own um, like internally building paranoia because I think human beings are just kind of like we're fundamentally we're great apes, and great apes, like all primates, have like a natural um, kind of uh, predator prey dynamic as to how we kind of look at the world. And if we don't have like we're animals that are fundamentally accustomed to having to put in some effort, but not nearly as much effort as we have to put in now to live. And I think if you were to try and get rid of that completely, your society would like end up being rife with mental illness and people that don't exactly know what to do. People should have abundant opportunities to explore their creativity. They should obviously own the means of production and have a stake in the factories that they work at or the workshops that they work at, grocery stores, whatever it is. Um,
I mean,
but
yeah, but
that
I think
drudgery
that
should be a small component of their life.
I
That
think that things like worker co-ops being like supported by the state and kind of being the standard, I think that that is still very possible within the framework of capitalism. Like, I don't see how those two are antithetical.
Well, I can explain what the theoretical justification for that standpoint is, like what the writers will tell you if you were to query the leftist ancients, if you will. Um, Basically, it's this. Just as liberal societies often end up succumbing to fascism, um, capitalist systems tend to subvert or subsume alternative systems that develop within them. That doesn't mean that they can't develop within capitalism. And in fact, I think that developing parallel systems and trying to prevent the influence of capitalism from poisoning them is a fundamental part to leftist engagement and broader advocacy and stuff. Um, but uh, fuck, trying to remember where I was going with that. Um,
But I feel like what you're saying is
oh, I
that, like,
remember.
yeah,
I remember. So the reason why it doesn't work out is because capitalism will, unless you have enough people engaging in it and enough solidarity among the working class, then capitalism will constantly try to subsume or subvert that alternative framework.
but doesn't
Whether that
communism
means
do the
through,
exact same? Like,
well, I'm not
but then, like,
authoritarian communist either. I'm an
yeah, but
anarchist, so I believe in.
that's kind of what things that aren't capitalism have kind of led to inevitably so far.
I would argue that we've never really
Systems
seen a
like,
country that's fully adopted the socialist model that people are advocating for in leftist circles.
I
I,
mean, no, because it
I
would
just
be
don't think that any
impossible.
country's actually put that to
Like,
work.
yeah, but for a single country to put that to work would be kind of impossible because they would still have to
Oh
Like
yeah, no, for
they
sure,
would still
for
have to
sure.
engage
Yes,
in the global capitalist market. So
yes,
yeah,
yes. Yeah, you have to have. Yeah, it's workers, industrial. What is it, the phrase? Workers of the world unite. You know, it's workers of the world, not workers of one individual state. The idea that what I call myself as a market socialist in the near term and anarcho-syndicalist in the long term. I think that that you can basically only evolve as far as market socialism within a broader global capitalist environment. But once enough countries have transitioned away from strict capitalism to market socialism, then it will start to become sort of absurd that this billionaire class is even allowed to continue existing, period. And the pressure will eventually become so great that the capacity of the world's nations and the world's much more closely united working classes to be able to rise up against their oppressors and to unite against common enemies that make life uh, needlessly miserable for tons of people would just be a natural um, outcropping of that process.
well, I mean, but in that case, we aren't really talking about a like we are kind of talking about utopianism if we say workers of the world unite and basically at
No,
some
it's not
point like
utopianism. That's not utopian. That's it. That's literally there's nothing utopian about that. Workers of the world unite, like the workers of the world uniting does not mean that life is suddenly going to be perfect and that we're not going to have strife and that we're going to have systems that all of a sudden just work amazingly. What it does mean is that there is suddenly a ton more public accountability and a ton more involvement by the everyday people whose lives are governed and determined by the decisions made presently by private capital owners and the
but
politicians that they have purchased.
I don't see how a like worker owned corporation would make different choices than a CEO owned corporation. Like at that point, like a
Well, I can
union,
tell you why they would. I can tell you why
like
they would. Because those
they
decisions would be
they
made
want the
by.
like the board members would still want to maximize their profits and still want to buy up their like
But
like buy up
okay, hold
anybody
on.
that can compete with them. You know, you would still have Disney buying like Warner Brothers and Fox and everything. Like
I just disagree. There,
I feel
no,
like
because like
unions
when
don't represent the best of all people. Unions just represent the best of the union members, and if those union members are running a corporation, then they're gonna be voting for like eating the competition and maximizing their profits.
I mean, that doesn't tend to be what unions do, especially like the way they're organized in America. Unions are largely organized along the lines of trade or industry. And what that means is that, like the Teamsters, for example, they've got unionized drivers in all kinds of different individual companies. Um, and the Teamsters actually have different types of representation for or different types of people that they represent on top of
Oh no, I
drivers and
was just
package deliverers and
using
stuff like that.
I was just using unions as a parable to what a worker owned co-op would be. So
Well,
not like
what I'm trying to
so
say
not
though is that like,
unions spanning multiple corporations. I'm talking like if one corporation, instead of being owned by like a board of CEOs or like a CEO, CFO, blah blah blah, this very hierarchical structure that currently exists, I think it would be better for the people within that corporation, but it wouldn't be better for the overall market because their incentive would still be to maximize their corporation's profit, whether the corporation is run by the workers or by the god emperor of that corporation.
well, I don't give a shit what's good or bad for the market unless it's good or bad for people. Um, and that's what I care about. And if you're saying it's worse for people, My only thing is like that just doesn't seem to be the case. And also, I think I can maybe make this make sense, just logically. So, um, are you more likely to care about um, the place where your work is based or the place where you live?
What?
Are you more likely to care about the land and the community around the place where you work, or the place where your money comes from, or the place where you live?
Depends on where I get laid more.
I guess so, huh? The point I'm trying to make is that when the board of shareholders that makes the decisions and the CEO that makes the decisions for a major multinational corporation or even a local corporation are just random rich people from all across the country or from New York City or from whatever big city, which is how a ton of companies operate. There's tons of companies that people think, oh, that's like a local company. But then if you actually get to find out who owns it, it's like out of state investors that bought the business out a long time ago. And like it's just ran by people that happen to be in the local community, but they're getting paid peanuts. And like the money is just being funneled out of town, sometimes being funneled out of state. So is it better if the person who runs a corporation, the people who run a corporation, live in the community where that corporation is based? Or is it perfectly fine if they live in New York City and they're making decisions about a plant in Dalton, Texas?
But is that something that can be legislated for? Like,
No, but I'm not talking about
yeah,
legislature. We're talking about worker co-ops. That's why I'm trying to explain why it's better when the workers own the means of production. Because if the workers at a
I mean, there's
factory
people who
or a
work for
store
Disney
or
all over the
whatever,
world.
just let me finish my point. If the workers own the means of production, whether that be a factory, a grocery store, a workshop, whatever it may be, they by necessity have to live near it unless it's some remote work job. By necessity, like that's just kind of how work works. You kind of have to be able to be there. So they've got to live within a certain amount around that local community. And as a result, whatever decisions they make in their capacity as a member of this worker co-op are going to be made not just with the profits of the company in mind, but also with the needs and interests of their community in mind, because you have enabled a system whereby they are one and the same, whereby this person now, when they vote for their company to raise its prices or something, they're going to be thinking not just about how much it's going to affect the bottom line, but also about how that might affect the community and what sort of blowback that might have down the line, because they've got a vested interest. They've got a share in the ownership of that company. They've got interest in the land, and they know that whatever happens to market conditions, they can refit that factory to be something else if one contract moves out. And that means a ton. That is like such a tremendous,
but
incalculable difference in the amount
I
of.
don't. I think your model kind of. I don't see how it accounts for corporations that like span multiple states and countries and shit. Because, like, if I work at a KFC in, I don't know, London, like, I'm not gonna be like, even if the workplace is completely democratized, like, what the fuck?
Why
Like
can't there
the
be a national syndicate? Why can't there be a national worker-run syndicate?
I mean, it's national, but it will still decide on whether or not the KFC I work for gets closed or not.
No, it's not. That's not how it would work. The national would not be responsible for making decisions about individual franchisees, because the national would not be organized around the principle of just like making raw profit hand over fist year after year, no matter what. Once again, in such a system, if we ever got to this point, people would have already adapted to the idea that you kind of have to look out for your fellow human being to survive and to make society better. And so the hope would be that by that time you would have these systems self-organizing such that you've got national level syndicates that replace things like KFC. Maybe maybe they even retain the name, but now instead of being a multi-billion-dollar corporation that's constantly trying to make more money and squeeze every single penny out, now it's a worker-owned corporation with a national level kind of like organizing board or whatever to like make sure that the recipes,
Okay.
if something needs to be updated, it can be updated, to kind of like promulgate the distribution of certain things that might be hard to like individually distribute in every given local area. But yeah, like
Okay, but
the
I
idea
feel
of
like,
like franchise restaurants doesn't go away just because you do a socialism.
the problem with that, like in terms of politics, like if
I'm listening.
like doesn't that model of politics also by nature restrict alternatives from emerging? Like what if the Phoebe's ideal version of market socialism party wins the election, and like if everything is like still a free democracy, like what the fuck would happen if somebody made the let's go back to crony capitalism party because like you can be a
I
trillionaire
think that
in
would
that
depend on how
system?
much work we got done. It would entirely depend on how much work we got done. I would not be one. Like, I think one of the reasons why communist or so-called communist projects have failed in the past is because this trend of authoritarianism tends to emerge. And I think
Yes,
that is kind of
exactly.
like a death knell to that kind of movement. So I would never engage in any political repression. The way I think that you build a successful socialist society is by winning big and actually making things better for the people. And that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. That's all Franklin Delano Roosevelt did. That's all he did. He didn't have to do no Huey Long type shit. Now Huey Long had to do some Huey Long type shit because he was operating in Louisiana, but that's another story for another time. FDR got what he got needed to get done, and he only unceremoniously imprisoned one minority along the way.
It's good enough. Good quota. Yeah, but like I feel
Actually, it
like
was way more. You know how many people don't realize that German Americans and Italian Americans were sometimes sent the same kind of things as well?
yeah, Italians definitely. Irish too, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know if not during World War II. Irish were definitely treated super badly before they started to become more integrated into broader white society. But um, I don't know if they were ever thrown in camps. Here in America, though, like anybody who was like, not anybody, but if you were like Italian or German, and especially if you were Japanese, if you were Japanese and living on the West Coast, your ass was going to an internment camp. If you were
Yeah.
German, Italian, or Japanese living anywhere else, and you said too many untoward things about the war effort or something like that, you might also go to an internment camp and be
Yeah.
housed alongside stateside POWs.
Yeah, but
So that's a crazy thing my country did.
yeah, I know.
Fuck.
I couldn't relate. I'm German. My country never did any crazy shit.
Well, no, I can think of one thing you guys did. Um, you invented the printing press.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. That was like yeah.
Oh, I just thought about something else you guys did that was a lot worse, though. The
What?
Protestant Reformation. That was a bad look.
Yeah, that's probably the darkest point in our history. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to say so. Obviously, we're joking, YouTube. The Holocaust was a horrible thing. Nobody should joke about it. Millions of people died, and we're just being satirical.
I think that much. Yeah. I avow that statement. Yeah. So, but like, I don't see how any of the things that you have described that would be nice and based if they happened aren't possible in today's system. Like,
Because capitalism will
why
always
aren't
undermine it.
there worker co-ops being
Because
like
capitalism
why
undermines them.
no but like in the like I don't know like 70s 80s like why wasn't
Oh,
like
there
why
were.
wasn't
You just haven't heard
Amazon
about them.
founded as a worker co-op? Like how many of the great success stories are like why like how wouldn't they be possible in today's system
Why?
without changing the system of capitalism, you know?
Because they fundamentally go against it. So, do you know what makes art like? Do you know what? I genuinely am not trying to be condescending, but I just want to see, right? Because there's like a very specific theory-based definition that most leftists are using. I just want to see if we're on the same page. What defines our current paradigm as capitalists? Like, what is the power dynamic that defines it?
I mean, largely, well, private ownership of the means of production, markets, stock markets that basically dictate, that basically
Okay,
have
you
like a
got
majority of the global currency running through it. You
right.
know,
So the
acquisition
first
of
thing is the most important. The first thing is the most important because all of the rest is enabled by private ownership of the means of production. You can't
yeah,
have a stock market unless you have a privately owned company that can be, then turned around and sold to the public in the form of shares, right? Like you can't do a stock market unless you've got that kind of basic premise already. Um, so like yeah, it seems like you've got like a
but
basic working definition.
setting up a worker co-op isn't like illegal in
But that's
capitalism.
the
That's
thing
the
I was
part I
about to
don't get.
say. I'm not saying it's illegal, but there, by the way, there are a couple of successful worker co-ops. Like there's a big one in Spain that I always forget the name of, but I think they're like a fashion brand or something, and they apparently are pretty successful. But and I know that they're a lot more common in like the northern European countries, like fucking Finland and shit. Apparently, um, the Netherlands, I think, has quite a few worker co-ops. So it's a thing that is emerging in greater numbers in certain places that are more conducive to alternative models of production. But the reason why worker co-ops haven't like made it big in that way is, in my opinion, because they offer a fundamental threat to the system of capitalism in that they transgress upon one of the most firmly held dictates of capital, which is that markets and means of production will be controlled not democratically, but by a small group of people who have enough money to buy into the system,
Yeah, by the people who
which
hold the means. Yeah,
intrinsically, but that
obviously.
that 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 creates dynastic power structures, unfair, unearned hierarchies, and all of the foul fruits from these trees. And when you have a worker co-op, that's not how things work because every worker is able to have a say. In a true worker co-op, like if you've got a factory, for example, different parts of the line that are specialized in different ways will have like a shop steward and like a little uh, framework for doing meetings
Yeah,
and
but
making
like
decisions about how their individual part of the thing works.
nothing is stopping people from like establishing such a co-op and being
And
successful
people
with
are
it.
doing it in greater numbers all the time, which is why
That's
I'm
cool.
saying
But
that we
then,
need to adopt
yeah,
a market socialist model that will be more able to, and not only for that, but also because like we are rapidly approaching a time where AI is going to start taking over so many fucking jobs. And not just AI, but AI and automation. And when those things start mixing more effectively, that is going to take like just fucking massive amounts of people out of the labor market. They're going to be made redundant. What do you do with those people? What is the plan? And the only one I can think of that is humanistic and that is humane is socialism. Like, we need to democratize the means of production so that the working class has a stake in how these things progress and the profits that are made from them.
I mean, but how wouldn't it democratize the means of production to just like increase wealth taxes, increase capital gains taxes? Like I
Because
feel like all of that
it doesn't,
is like perfectly compatible with like
okay,
with
well, those are good first
capitalist
steps to
systems
getting,
that could exist in the future.
okay, I agree, but they are not like they are not what we should end at. Okay, that's my thing. Those are good ways to get us started on a path towards like a market socialist world. And once we're at that point where like, we're no longer relying on capitalism to meet people's basic needs, where that is provided for by the common good, um, and is basically maintained through collective labor paid for by taxes. Like, it's very easy system to figure out. We've fucking figured it out in a number of different countries. I think it would work here. Once we get to that point, then it only starts to like make more and more sense to address the fundamental inequalities that made those sorts of um, measures necessary in the first place. Give me 1 second. I have to use the bathroom so bad.
Dude in chat, making a wealth tax would make a wealth tax. It wouldn't democratize any workplace. I didn't talk about democratizing the workplace. I talked about democratizing capital. Like, getting money from very few people and putting it into the hands of a lot of people. Like, that's what it would do. That's like the whole point of the idea. The US military is the best example of socialism. True. But, even such a utopian, beautiful model of socialism like the US military is feasible within a capitalist framework. So that's what I'm kind of saying. That's why I don't really get the need, the push to like go like beyond capitalism, sail into the sunset of whatever the fuck comes next,
Take it down. Oh, alrighty. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry. But yeah, I just feel like unless you address the fundamental power imbalances and the unfair hierarchies, unjust hierarchies that maintain capitalism, and
I
that
feel like you'd first have to demonstrate that an alternative system wouldn't have those.
well, I feel like you just keep refusing to like acknowledge my argument that when the workers own the means of production, that means that people who actually live in the area where a business operates have a say in how that business operates, which means they are not going to like make decisions that make the lives of them and their neighbors worse.
Well, I fundamentally agree with that, but that's not impossible under a capitalist system. That's not
I mean,
like
it's
you
not.
said yourself that
Oh my
worker
God.
co-ops keep sprouting out of the ground and keep being successful, and that's nice. In that case, I don't really see the reason to abandon capitalism and like sail into the sunset of whatever we would do next when all of that works under the current system. As you said, it's constantly happening. Like there's a lot of like worker-owned co-ops rising and like being successful, and local businesses with the people working where they live and blah blah. Like I agree, that all of that is like super based, but it's like currently happening, so it's obviously possible under the current system.
Yeah, it's possible. But it is something that faces like tremendous hurdles, especially here in the United States. And it's something that I feel like we're hyper focusing on this one example of um, like this basically like this one component of the kind of like socialist society that we're trying to sit here and envision. And we're hyper focusing on that to the exclusion of any other parts of the conversation. And to the point where, like, I'm not really sure where else I can go with it, at least as far as like the labor thing is concerned. Because, like, fundamentally, there is an unfairness when it comes to capitalism, and there always will be, unless you abolish that system. The
I
fact that
disagree.
a private individual can own a company, can buy out a company, means that they can wield vast amounts of undue power, economic power, over people that the power that they were never elected to, power that they don't have by virtue of their being a community member with a voice, just power they're able to purchase by fiat. And I don't think that you should be able to purchase power by fiat. I simply don't think that that is a just way of distributing power.
I
Sorry.
agree, but purchasing power by fiat is not a fundamental part of
Yes, it is. That's
it's a
literally the
fundamental
definition of
part of
capitalism.
no, not exactly.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Capitalism is what says that you can own a person's house, despite the fact that you don't live there, and like as long as you live, you can do a bare minimum of maintenance on that place and put as little money into it as possible and extract sometimes a couple of $1,000s a month off of people for the rest of your life. And capitalism is what dictates that. And capitalism is what says that it's okay for a landlord to kick a tenant out for any number of reasons that they might have elucidated in the contract, but it's not okay for a human being that needs a home to kick down the door of an abandoned house and move in there so
Yeah,
they've
but
got a
those are
roof over their
things
head.
that laws can fix within capitalism. Like those are things that laws can fix, right? Like
So
treatment of tenants.
you think that landlording, but that's the thing. Treatment of tenants, like that's the thing. You should not be able to buy the ability to tell someone whether or not they can live in their house. That's just wrong.
But that's a legal issue, not a capitalism
Okay, so
issue.
do you think, yes, no, it's a completely capital issue. Literally, capitalism is a system that is only enforceable with the cooperation of the state. You realize that, right? I mean, that's the whole reason why the
As
cops
is
exist.
any system, yes. As is any economic system.
So like, what's the point then?
That's kind of the question I'm asking. Like how exactly, like when basically everything that like 99% of leftists want can be achieved within the framework of a progressive capitalist society, like why would you then want to just try something else that you
I
never
just
went before
fundamentally
either?
disagree with the premise. I just don't. I don't think that the
That's cool.
things that
That's cool.
leftists are looking to achieve, I just don't think the things that like leftists are looking to meaningfully achieve can be achieved under capitalism. I think that achieving the goals that leftists broadly have for how our economic system should be structured, even in the beginning stages, would fundamentally mean moving away from the kind of like free market capitalist kind of mixed market economy we've got now to one that is markedly more socialist. And I think that's totally fine. I don't think there's anything scary about it. I don't think you need to enforce it at the end of a gun. And I don't think it's going to take much to get people there. I think like it's simple shit. A lot of it's just tax policy at first. Fucking universal health care, apportioning money for a mass transit system in this country. Like
Yeah, that's
especially like
yeah,
some fucking high speed rail. Like a lot of this is
yeah,
stuff
and
that you
all of those
can
are
do
good things.
under
Yeah,
global
exactly,
capitalism, but it's just like
exactly.
eventually you get to the point where you've moved away from it, is what I'm trying to tell you. Eventually
I
you get
mean,
to the
but at
point
that
whether
point,
you've moved away from it, where you've
at
put
that
more
point,
in
like
the commons.
But at that point, where you want to move away from it, at that point, we have CEOs being fairly taxed, we have landlord behavior being regulated, we have everybody having healthcare, we have everybody getting everywhere with, like, I don't know, like state subsidized EVs and public transportation system. Like, at that point, like, we're kind of chilling. Like, until we reach that point, I don't think there's any point in trying to reach further, because
Yeah,
that's like a
I just
pretty
feel like this is
dope spot to be
defeatism.
in.
It just feels like defeatism to me. I feel like we could do so much, and I feel like we could. I see further than just when we've got some basic gains. I
Like,
cannot help but
especially if,
sit
like,
and think,
I feel like that is like, I feel like everything I just like socialized healthcare, like socialized living, like fair taxes on like the richest, and like
oh God,
standard of living for the poorest, like all that stuff is like perfectly, like, most of that stuff could probably be like achieved if, like, the next, I don't know, like 5 elections in Norway are won by the right party.
I'm sure some of it could be, and I'm not really arguing with the idea that some of these things can be achieved in a limited way in any given place under capitalism. In fact, if you remember, at the beginning of my argument, I clarified that you can't have like a global revolution or turning against capitalism as a whole unless you develop market socialism, which is something that can evolve within the broader context of global capitalism. First, you have to develop that within a number of countries, and then you have to get enough of those countries together to start, like, putting their weight behind humanitarian projects and stuff like that to try and get other countries on board. And eventually,
I
you've
mean, but
got
that's the
enough
timeline
countries.
that's been happening, like, that has been happening for like decades. Like, we are already on that track, right? Like
I mean, we're kind of slipping
UNICEF,
away from
like,
it right now. That's why I,
I mean,
as a
yeah, of
leftist
course we
streamer,
are,
talk
because
about Trump so
Americans are
much.
retarded and elected Trump. Yeah, of course we are. Like, in many, yeah, of course. Like, but that's
Right, but
because
that
we are,
doesn't
like,
that indicate to you a
currently.
problem with capitalism? Oh my God, how do you not see? How do you
But
not
no,
see?
it's kind of a problem with democracy. Like, it's like we are on the verge of the democratic experiment
Right, but
failing
if
because people
capitalism
are
didn't
stupid.
exist, like, okay, if even if capitalism still existed, but capitalists were really tamped down on, like if it was like really regulated and shit, then Trump wouldn't be nearly as dangerous. He wouldn't be able to grift nearly as much out of the American taxpayer and all
I
this.
mean, sure,
It's
but that's
explicitly
just
because he is a billionaire and because of the power imbalances that creates. That he's able to do that. You know why the Epstein files aren't being prosecuted? It's about more than just the fact that Donald Trump is in them and he's a pedophile and he's protecting pedophiles in the circle. It's the fact that there are tons and tons of billionaire pedophiles that are in those files and who've been protected, administration after administration, after DA after DA, after local judge after local judge. They've been fucking protected. And how? What did they do to get that protection? Were they just really charming? Were they just really kind
No,
people?
that's
Other than
because
fucking
there's
children,
no.
they had money.
Yeah,
They
it's
had
because
money.
there's no common sense laws against the amount of political power money can purchase, and those could exist. Like being anti-corruption doesn't mean you have to be anti-capitalist by definition. At least that's my opinion. I'm not an
Well,
economist. I don't think you're an economist, but I think
no,
that
definitely not.
like limiting the amount of money in politics and shit like that, and influence that money can buy, and also the amount of money people can even amass by progressive taxation models is definitely like it's definitely realistically feasible under
See,
a
but
capitalist system.
this is also an
Because
interesting thing to bring up. You know, what you just said, a lot of American conservatives would call that like communism, but I would consider that like a decent step towards market socialism. And I'd be fine with stuff like that. I would consider it a step away from capitalism, but I'm fine with that. I don't think there's anything holy or wonderful about capitalism that means we have to preserve it. I think that if we can find better ways to do things, then they'll be described differently than fine. You know?
what the fuck, bro? There's like a weird duel going on in your chat right now between
Oh,
like
neat.
like medical first responders deserving less money than firefighters, and now we are calling each other stupid. That's nice. But anyway, like, yeah, I think that it's like the past, like, I don't know, like 200 years of capitalism have been kind of overall progress, like we don't own people anymore, we we still have a shit ton of problems, but I feel like the world, especially the more progressive nations, are like on the path of figuring a lot of that shit out, kind of. But the problem is that America is a democracy, and the people who vote in it are like people who would vote for Trump, and I mean, a lot of countries have that problem, like the AFD and shit like that. So I think
Makes
I
you
hope
wonder if maybe there's something
democracy wasn't a
systemic.
mistake. I hope democracy wasn't a mistake.
So, I cannot help but point out, right, that this is why so many liberals say that leftists are actually more liberal than liberals, because you're willing to question whether democracy may have been a mistake before you question whether capitalism may have been a mistake. And that
I mean,
that
maybe
just
both.
okay, well, at
Maybe
least you
both,
said maybe
but
both.
yeah, of course. Like I'm not like some kind of religious capitalist. I don't see I just don't see that, like, I see like the positive limits of where we could push the current system with common sense regulation and law and shit like that is like
You can't.
very, 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 very good. Like the potential of what a capitalist society could be with like regulation. I don't worship at the altar of economos,
Yeah,
and
no,
I
that's
hope I
good
don't give
for
that an
sure.
impression. Yeah. But anyways, it's kind of 7 a.m. right now where I live.
Oh dang, I didn't mean to keep you up that long, dog.
That's fine. It's fine. I still have another 6 hours till I have to go to work.
Oh well, that's not too bad, I guess.
Yeah, we're
Too
chilling.
horrible.
Anyways, been a cool talk. It's been very long. I didn't think it'd be this long, but it's been
Oh
it's
no,
been
me
nice.
neither.
You know,
Yeah, it has been nice.
not too adversarial. I hope we can like watch more like Russian gas station explode in the future.
And I look forward to debating the ethics of that with you over Reddit when it happens again.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun, man. Yeah, see you again. Not man, but fuck it,
Yeah, no,
man.
you're fine. Don't.
Yeah, trans rights and everything. Stay safe out there.
Hey, thank you. Hell yeah.
So, bye.
Fuck yeah, trans rights.
Bye.
See ya. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, Scotty rules.
Scotty rules, yeah. All right, well, that was Dan, and that was all of my various takes on the Ukraine war and several of my takes about some other things. I felt like we got some good moments out of that. I had a lot of fun. That was enjoyable. It was a good. That was a good 3.5 hour stream. I can get behind that. Is this person employed? This is actually my job. If you would like to contribute to the further existence of this job for me, you can contribute either via membership. You sign up for a membership, or you can gift memberships, or you can super chat. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's not you. What are you doing for gunshot victims? Do people ring your line when they're having a stroke, bleeding out? I don't think so. Oh. Keep getting them. You gotta be kidding me. The stuff ain't moved in yet? Oh, no, it looks like it's started to. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna develop right over. Ooh. The legend rain. Doot, doot. 12:35. Ooh. Ooh, yes. Oh, Lord, please. Please, 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 please. Please, please, please let it rain. 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 I really want it to rain. The ground needs the moisture so fucking bad. Okay, so I'm going to end the StreamYard stream, and I'm going to go ahead and start a stream over on Prism, but it'll be on this channel. So just, stick around and you can watch the after show.